Hi, this is the June video chat with fans. Just a couple quick announcements, and I'll start going through the question list. And once again, I kind of wish YouTube wouldn't recommend this. So somebody emailed me asking, saying, "Oh, you can make sure this doesn't appear in your subscriber feed." That's not the same thing. If you're actually subscribed, that'd be different, but you can't control whether you want YouTube to recommend a video or not, the best I can tell. First thing, more work's being done in the videos. I think there'll probably be at least one more game dungeon this month. Freeman's Mind, there's still some coding stuff that we're trying to get sorted out. There's also a bug that I'm not sure we're going to fix or not, but that's not going to affect the next few episodes. If you want to know what the bug is, if you remember, I think it was last year, Valve fixed, they made an update to Half-Life 2 and they did fix some bugs and they also introduced a new one. And the current bug is Metro Cops, maybe the Overwatch too, I haven't tested it yet, they will not crouch anymore. So if they're supposed to like hide behind a barrel or something, they don't do that anymore. They just don't crouch. So that was a bug introduced by Valve. I think I mentioned that again last year. Still hasn't been fixed. I might be able to revert to an older version of Half-Life 2, but then that had a bug where I think during demo recording, like their face would be looking the wrong way, so I don't know. We'll figure it out. But there aren't any Metro Cops or I think Combine coming up, so that's not impacting the next few episodes. This is something else I wanted to do. But let's see. Oh, somebody put some unsavory tags and it won't be recommended. Yeah, maybe, but I'm wondering if that has. See, that might affect the whole channel algorithm. So I wouldn't mind putting. I'd be okay with putting some spoof tags, but then it might flag the whole channel and some. Who knows what YouTube is doing with the algorithm? What? So Freeman's Mind, as soon as we get that code thing sorted out, I'll resume that. Game Dungeon, I'll push ahead on. The editor experiments mostly coming to a close. There's still like one or two more I need to look at, and there was someone I dropped the ball on and missed their email. For the time being, it's looking like I'm gonna have to go ahead and keep editing the videos. This is not for a lack of trying to. I might just be too picky. The others, it's not that it has to be like my way. It's just that I wasn't liking the flow of some of the others. So, I mean, there's plenty of other styles I'd be fine with, but it's like, that cut felt abrupt. Or like, what, it's like, or this like, well, this pause is like way too long. Where are they doing that? So I don't know. I'll see though. What may also happen is I could just kind of do more of the basics where I have the cuts at these times and then like all the supplemental stuff like 2D graphics coming in or volume balancing within the project file itself or some other transitions. I might let someone else take over that. And that'll be better too because then there'll be an extra pair of eyes on it for any mistakes I missed. I was thinking if you've seen the movie Chasing Amy, two of the main characters in that, they make comics and one of them does the drawings, another one comes in after them and inks and colors it. So I'm thinking maybe I could end up having an arrangement like that. So I'm still trying to figure it out, but so far the experiment has not gone so well. So my apologies for the months-long delays that led to, but it's the sort of thing where I think I have more wisdom points from that. So, it might have been better if I hadn't done that experiment, but it would have kept bothering me that I hadn't. It's like I said in the birthday video, rather regret something you have done than you haven't done. Another is on the movie. Okay, people aren't going to want to hear this, but I saw the latest demonstration of the Unreal 5 engine that's coming out, and they're adding some new animation tools. One of them this could be quite helpful. And it was something I was going to try to be replicating on a more limited level anyway. I think it's called motion smoothing, where it's sort of what I was doing in Source of Civil Protection, where there were certain functions that were just kind of built in. You know, so if I wanted somebody to walk there, I just tell them like, just walk there. I don't have to do the animation or run there or go around this corner, and it would just kind of know. There'd be some pre-programmed animations in there that it would know how to do that based off of that, you know. And if it's a really specific sequence, I wouldn't want that. But for things like characters walking in the background or going around corners, that was one of the things I hated about Source Filmmaker, is that it was like the inverse. If you wanted somebody, like if I wanted somebody to just walk across the level and like go around some turns and stuff like that, that was not a big deal in Source SDK. That was a real pain in Source Filmmaker. Maybe it's gotten easier, but that was one of the tools I was going to have to build anyway for for Unreal. So it looks like they're kind of adding something pretty similar as it is. So the movie may end up being an Unreal 5. However, once again, do not get your hopes up on the visuals. I might intentionally demake some of it just to stay clear of the Uncanny Valley. And there's the metahuman stuff that they're making too. So this is the sort of thing where like the technical problems I was kind of struggling with, it looks like they're kind of being solved on their own just by larger. This is the sort of thing where I feel like in an alternate reality, we would have had these kinds of tools like 10 years ago. That this is, a lot of it's not that groundbreaking, but having it for the average person can access is the more groundbreaking part. So, so that doesn't mean work's going to stop on the movie, but it means, I have to reshuffle what I'm focusing my energy on and just hope things like just hope things rise to the level where I need it at by the time I'm ready for it. I'm still not going to be doing audio voice actor auditions just yet. I'll make a video on that when I do, just because I don't want there to be too huge a time gap between where I'm just ready to hit the ground running on that. But, you know, I remember I was talking to another machine maker, this is a while back, when I was talking about my process for making Civil Protection, and they're saying, oh, so about 99% of what you do is pre-production. And it's like, yeah. So it's like by the time I'm actually ready to be like, it's a mess. I don't like animating, but it's the movie's still happening. Just there's another reshuffling, hopefully in a good way. And I think it's much more satisfying spending my time making the scene happen rather than lots of research, finding your tools and trying to rig them the way you want them to get what you're like. That's the part I don't like doing. Oh, for Civil Protection's in limbo at the moment, but I'm trying to focus that energy going towards the movie instead. But I can say that if you miss, I'd be amazed if you like Civil Protection but don't like the movie. Okay, I would say that, unless the only reason you liked it was because it's Half-Life. The movie will not be Half-Life related, but yeah, I'll leave it at that. Okay, I think, let's see, have any more now? So yeah, more Game Dungeon coming. I'm really gonna have to hustle too because of the time I lost kind of experimenting with other editors, and I'm trying to get more on top of emails, but it's still gonna take a while. Like I think since I was kind of waiting until I finished the last episode. And I've sent out several hundred, but I have many, many more to get through. So I'm hoping to develop a habit of just replying to a few each day and then eventually catch up. If you are sending me emails that you're asking if I've played this game, those may not get a reply. However, those are getting kind of filed under, you know, Game Dungeon requests, that sort of thing. So, no, it's not my birthday though. I guess we're pretty close to a half birthday for me. I guess that would be on the 14th or something. So, yeah. The last Game Dungeon, I felt like it was kind of average. It was kind of like par for the course. There might be a few more of those. There's like 5 different Game Dungeon ideas. I'm not sure which which one I want to do next, but I kind of want to. Well, you'll see. I have one lined up. It's coming up soon, and then. Well, no, not. I shouldn't say coming up soon. Coming up next. Yeah, soon. But then the others, I'll have to figure out which game that I'm doing next. So I want to get more going, though. Okay, so yeah, I guess start answering the questions. I'll take the live ones at the end, unless I get distracted, which I sometimes do. Okay. Yeah, here we go. Okay, the first question is, yeah, I was surprised this one was at the top. The pandemic proved how little where I live affects my online freelance work. Is moving to a country with all right internet but affordable living something you would recommend to other people working in internet media? What aspects of researching other countries should the unfamiliar look out for? Let's see. Yeah, and there's asking about socializing. Well, I mean, it depends on your situation, obviously. Yeah, I would recommend it. Okay, I don't mean... In a way, this is a bit of an elitist conversation in the fact that you can afford to move to another country, or that there's one where cost of living is lower than where you are. Because not everybody has that option. So I'm recognition of that. But I had come to the conclusion, even if I never met my now wife, previously girlfriend, I think I might have still left the U.S. just from pure cost of living. Because I remember thinking, okay, like at my peak at Machinima, when like each Freeman's Mind was getting like millions of views, I remember thinking, okay, well, I think I'll be all right if nothing changes, and I don't have like a medical emergency. And things, well, didn't have a medical emergency, but things definitely changed. And I remember the math just wasn't adding up to me. Like over the long term, it's like, can I even afford to live in the United States? Was kind of my reasoning in the long term. And I guess it sort of, as for socializing, it sort of helped that all my friends at the time just sort of one by one moved to different parts of the country. So like everybody I knew locally just kind of abandoned me. So I didn't really have a lot tying me down at the time I did move. So yeah, actually at the time if I had never met Magda, I was toying with the idea. One fan was inviting me to come to Romania, and I was, because I think I would preferred a climate that's like not super hot, because you know, if you go to like India or the Philippines, you have a lot of options there. So like Romania would have been like a colder climate overall, and this guy was inviting me, like really trying to sell me on the idea. So I was kind of like half toying with it. I was just thinking, and I think as time would have gone on with finances, I might have considered it more and more. I mean, it's yeah. So that was the primary incentive for me, just cost of living. I mean, I've heard some people say it's like unpatriotic. I guess in some sense it is, but it's like, geez, my sort of mental math on it was that, I'd rather live in a place where I could afford to pay rent and buy groceries comfortably, and where things are all kind of strange, or things are a little more strange, and I may feel like an outsider, not adapt, than something I'm familiar with, but then I'm stressed out of my mind, like trying to meet like, basic needs. So it's kind of a, it's probably a good expression for this, but yeah, I decided I'd rather have I'd rather, I'm a big believer in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, meet food, shelter, security, water, that sort of thing. So, somebody's shouting out from Louisiana. Well, that's where I was born. And I later lived in Baton Rouge for about a year. So, But yeah, now if you can afford to live in the U.S. comfortably, I'd say it's a different story. You know, but I mean, if you're just like you're just wondering where you're gonna be in like a couple months, like then yeah, it's definitely worth considering. You might want to research it, especially if you don't particularly like your job, or if you no, it's more of a luxury for people who can work online, because if you work at a local job, you might not be able to get work in another country. Whereas if it's online, then you already have the work. As for advice, I'd also recommend. Again, I was lucky that you probably will want some money saved up too. I mean, you don't necessarily need boatloads, but plane. I don't even know what plane tickets cost now, but I think it was like at the time I flew here, I think it was like $600 to fly from the U.S. to Poland. So that's not. You got to be pretty serious about it to do something like that. But even then, you have to have like we're living any place before you have an apartment. Like it kind of costs more to rent a hotel or something like that, or a hostel. Also, you want to have some money, probably for legal fees. I got lucky in that Magda's had a friend who was an attorney who kind of specialized in like helping foreigners, navigate the immigration system. Yeah, you're either gonna need, if you're the sort of person who loves like I imagine these people must exist, bureaucracy, researching like the rules and regulations and being prepared for it, then maybe you can handle it yourself with enough research, assuming there's not too big a language barrier, because that's another consideration. Um, what the But otherwise you might have to have some money for an attorney. However, that may not be as bad as it sounds. I mean, it'll still cost something, but it's not. It's hiring an attorney to just do something he's done 1,000 times, or just even give you the advice saying, okay, you're going to need this form, take it to this office. You're going to need like these documents, and like, okay, you're going to need this ID and photo. That's not as expensive as like trying to argue something for you in court or so. So it's not quite as bad as it sounds. It's more of like a routine kind of thing, where he just kind of knows the ins and outs. He or she knows the ins and outs of the process, that sort of thing. So it's not, because the difference between that versus like defend you in court. I imagine the price just rockets up for something like that. So this is the equivalent of like an oil change for like a car mechanic, or just do a general inspection, not rebuild the engine, that sort of thing. So yeah, try to have some savings that. Yeah, just do as much research as you can. But I remember I saw an article a while back where this is becoming popular with a lot of students for. Oh wow, so somebody has the value of their home doubled, but over 20 years it sounds like. But where they were. Oh, here, maybe I can post in the chat if I can find it. Student, or basically they decided they're never going to be able to pay off their student loans, so they moved to another country where it's like harder for the government to kind of garnish them, and they're basically exiles. Yeah, financial exiles. And it showed this picture of this guy riding an elephant in India, and he met a girl there. So it was. Let's see. Maybe I can find the article. So yeah, I mean it's kind of, yeah. Here we go. This is from 2 years ago. I'll post it in the chat here. Yeah. So this guy just, although I think he was able to work. Yeah, that's the other thing. You might be able to get work if you don't mind teaching, just teaching English. I mean, depending on your background. So, but yeah, the more you can kind of scout out what you're getting into, the better is my general advice. Yeah, okay, here's the link. Yeah, I mean, it's just sort of an anecdotal story, but apparently it's part of maybe not an enormous trend, but a big enough trend, that it's worth talking. It was worth covering. Yeah. Yeah, he couldn't get work. He had 30,000 student loan debts. Um, yeah, he basically just fled to India or China. There was another location for one of these. So, I mean, yeah, it's like it's a point I've emphasized in other video chats. Your situation may not be hopeless, but you may really have to think outside the box, and it may not be what you thought your life was going to end up being. You know, so it might. So yeah, I absolutely encourage that as an option to consider. I mean, but on the other hand, if you have like if all your friends are where you are and you're doing okay financially, like you have a health insurance or something like that, yeah, then it might be more radical change than you want to deal with. But you know, uh, living in another country, I'd say absolutely beats going homeless in where you're from. So that's I think that's the takeaway. Okay. How did you come across Echo? I thought about it. I honestly don't remember. I think it might have either been, it might have been like a Steam recommendation, or I might have been browsing through PC News game sites, and I thought, oh, this looks interesting. Yeah, actually, I remembered it incorrectly when I first played it because I thought, oh yeah, this is like a puzzle game, wasn't it? And not really. It was more the stealth thing. Like, oh, I got it mixed up. This is why I have the games list. I might not remember the name of the game. I might not remember how I saw it, but I thought, oh yeah, this looks interesting. Write down the title, boom, it's safe. I'll eventually get to it, you know? Let me review Bonecraft. I don't know Bonecraft. I think I've heard of Boneworks. That's the, is that what I'm thinking? Is that like the VR one? I haven't tried that. Oh yeah, that's another thing. The language barrier. Yeah, it would be a lot harder if you don't know the native language. So you'd have to, in those cases, if you didn't know anyone, you'd have to see if there might be like an expat community that spoke English or something like that. I mean, it'd still be an option, but it would, because yeah, if you can only speak English, that's going to limit where you can go more. Okay, let's see. So yeah, this is why I have the games list. And the games list is kind of, I haven't updated in a while. It's backed up for like 30 or 40 titles. I've still been writing them down. I hand them off to volunteers, going to help add some more soon. So people, yeah, they just keep making promising games. So I thought about it. It might even get worse soon, because right now there's a complete drought of computer hardware, especially for like video cards and CPUs. Well, that's the time for indie 2D games or like low demand, not so demanding 3D ones to really shine, because you know a computer from 10, even 20 years ago can run lots of 2D stuff. So. Yeah, I might try to skew the Game Dungeon more towards stuff, more away from stuff that takes a more demanding computer to run it. So, for a while anyway. What's the most challenging hike you ever undertook terrain-wise? Well, I mean, terrain, I don't know if there's anything I've done too radical terrain, just like up and down forested mountains. Most thing. I mean, the longest hike I've gone on, I think, was backpacking, where I did 21 miles in a day. But again, it was just kind of general forested mountains. I mean, I haven't done anything where it's like, you know, cliff scaling or let's see what or like out across the desert or something. I'm trying to think of like what. Or you know, or what, like Everest, where most people need like oxygen tanks to be able to breathe up there, and then it's so cold that it's. Well, actually, it wasn't. I wouldn't say it's that challenging, but I found it really fun. I didn't really like hiking that much as a kid, but my favorite by far was one my dad took me to. It's in Virginia, I think. It's called Devil's Marble Yard. type it in a image search. You'll get an idea of it. The thing is, like, this whole part of the side of the mountain, you hike up to it, and then it's just nothing but like this, just rows and rows of marble boulders that you can climb on. And it was awesome. I mean, it was, so, as a kid, like in the climb things, it was great. Yeah, that was, I haven't seen a place like that since. It's like just do a Google image search, like, or search engine. Yeah, Devil's Marble Yard. So that was probably the most fun. And that was definitely different from pretty much every other hike I've been on. So, because, you go over the ridge and then there's another row of boulders in front of you. You go over that, there's another one. It's like that all the way to almost the top. So, I mean, yeah, it's almost a little surreal. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun. Okay, let's see. Oh, I missed this question. Let's see. What are some of the best endings to puzzle games that you've seen? Well, Contraption Zax was pretty solid. Yeah, and again, they mentioned Puzzle Age. I love Puzzle Age's ending. I mean, it's it's not exactly resolved, but it's like resolved enough, and it fits the tone of it. Let's see. Puzzle game. I'm trying to think of puzzle games. We've got see a lot of puzzle games. They don't have much in the way of endings. They're just yeah. I don't know. I think I might have to go with Contraption Zack. They kind of go all out with that ending. See, I don't even remember the ending to Zany Golf now. And I did the video on that, so. Yeah, I guess adventure games, you have a much wider variety. Yeah, unfortunately, I missed that question. I tried to skim these before I got on, but sometimes I missed. Let's see. Okay. Oh, would you ever consider doing more vlog-oriented video, like a day in the life of Ross, or maybe some behind the scenes making a game dungeon for his mind, or Cribs, Ross and Magda edition? I don't really have plans for it. I mean, especially showing off the apartment, because that then I have to do like a bunch of cleaning too. Yeah, the thing is, it's not. For cleaning, like if it's something that could be unhygienic or have an odor, like trash or food or dirty laundry or something, I can be kind of militant about that for cleaning that. But for everything else, I'm not the neatest person. So it's a bunch of papers or boxes or junk everywhere that I wouldn't. It's not really something I'm like. Look, I mean, I guess if I had, pandemics kind of killed any company sort of coming over. But well, I mean, I'm getting the rest of the vaccination soon. I've had the first dose of Pfizer, but it'll still be a while before I think things are kind of completely normal socially. So yeah, but yeah. So if it's anything unhygienic, I'm kind of militant about that. But other cleaning, no, not really. So let's see. I mean, I don't know. It's like I tend to look at this like I have finite time to work on the videos, so I kind of want to maximize the quality of it. So if it's something off to the side where it's not as high quality of video, I want that to take like a minimum of time. But even then, I still want it to meet like a certain standard of people even wanting to watch this. So, I mean, I realize that's probably the incorrect approach for YouTube, but I don't know. I don't want to, I kind of consider these video chats about as cheap as I want to take the channel, So, let's see. The second dose just made his arm hurt really sore. Okay, well, yeah. Well, the first one kind of it kind of crept up. Like towards the evening, it felt like I got punched in the arm pretty solidly, And like the next day, it felt like I had like a good solid punch to the arm previously, but other than that, it wasn't too. But and, you know, it kept reminding. Here, I'll mention this. It kept reminding me of this party I went to once, where these guys got drunk and they started playing this game where they would just take turns punching each other in the arm, like, you know, just one at a time. It wasn't a fight. It was just taking the. And I guess the idea is like the loser would yield first or something like that. And they kept going a while until they both sort of decided they didn't want to get punched anymore. And then they started. Then they both got down on one knee and just started punching each other on, like, you know, I'm not sure what it's called, like the top part of your leg, you know, until they got tired of that. And then I saw one of them call Uncle, and then I see them. I see the guy walk off, and I could see he was real flimsy. Oh, well, the focus got lost there. Hello. Okay. I could see them walk off in a real flimsy way, but this wasn't like you can't walk straight because you're drunk walk. That's different. This was, the guy genuinely seemed surprised that like his leg was man, the focus is going. His leg was giving out as he was walking off. So I remember thinking, yeah, I bet they're gonna have a real fun morning tomorrow, where not only are they likely to have a hangover, but they're like, I mean, they took a lot of punches to the arm and their legs there, so they're probably gonna, it's gonna be one of those days. I was guessing, yeah, I bet tomorrow morning they're gonna want to take it easy. And I just kept remembering that incident. Well, after the day after the vaccine, when my arm was sore. So, but yeah, I'll try to. That said, I do have more ideas for side videos that I can maybe get out faster. That is one thing I might get more editing help with. I have one I was sort of toying with that I think I might go ahead and do it. I don't think it'll be that great, but it'll hit my minimum quality standard. That it'll be more kind of like the Star Trek video I did, where I just, certain things just give me certain thoughts that I just don't get out of my head. So that's sort of the theme for it. Okay, so keep moving on. Let's see. Could you elaborate on your creative process, on techniques you use for coming up with jokes, etc.? Well, for playing the movie, well, the movie is more complicated. That's I don't even want to know if I want to talk about that, because I don't know if it's even structured enough to claim there's a process there, but it's definitely moving forward. For something like Freeman's Mind, I can talk about that. That's just like, for a lot of the things, like the game dungeons or the other side views, like that Star Trek one, it's like the idea almost comes to me. And also, weirdly enough, for Civil Protection, sometimes listening to soundtracks would give me that kind of feeling, because my brain would sort of fill in gaps, like, what would this music go towards? And I was imagining these situations. I thought, oh, I could maybe make an episode out of something like that. So it kind of mutate. For something like Freeman's Mind, I'm kind of having to like actively draw from a well. The best way to describe it is like aggressive daydreaming, where, you know, I'll get to a point where it's like, okay, we have to fill in like, excuse me, like 10 seconds before, like, there's a gunshot or some other thing that interrupts it. I have to think of something to talk about. And then I'll just kind of just dive into my mind and kind of see if I can come up with anything. There's not really there's not really like a set process towards it. It's just that my mind eventually comes up with things. Like for some reason, this probably isn't the same thing at all, but for some reason I was thinking of like the old, like steamboats, where the riverboats where they would check to see the depth of the river to make sure they weren't gonna run aground, and they just send a pole or something down, and they just kind of keep checking to see whether that's where Mark Twain got his pen name from. Mark. That would be how deep the water was at that point, and so it kind of feels like that. Like I'm throwing a pole down or say, okay, did we get a hit with coming up with a good idea to say something? No, okay, we got to do it again. Then it's just kind of like that. Where I think, okay, well, I thought of something, but this isn't that funny. I should try again. So it's just, yeah, maybe a slot machine is a better analogy. Just keep trying to like get a hit. So. How do you feel about the disappearance of couch multiplayer in some games? I was never that invested in it to begin with. I mean, I occasionally played some of it, but I, of course, see why people would be frustrated with it, especially since there's not much of an excuse for it. I mean, not having that, I wouldn't think, especially if your game's kind of multiplayer oriented. I mean, I think this kind of goes back to what I was saying in Echo, where the games industry has been kind of punching above their class, where, okay, maybe they have enough, just like on consoles, they might have had just enough rendering power to make the game look the way they want to. Now, you'd think that it's all the same number of pixels, so you wouldn't need that much more power to render like 2 or 4 screens on it, but they can't take as many. My understanding is they can't take quite as many shortcuts with the processing then. So then the frame rate dips more, so it's not worth it as much to them. So yeah, someone says no method to the madness. Yeah, maybe. So I don't know. I mean, I guess, or the metrics that, because it seems like from a technological perspective, it wouldn't be that much more work to just say, okay, I mean, if you're doing multiplayer already, just say, okay, render a quarter of the screen from this position, then render it from this one. However, if you're pushing the absolute limits of like the console because you want to make the graphics shinier, then you have no wiggle room for trying to do like this stacked split screen stuff. That might be my guess. And I think they might have done statistics to see like how many, or data collection to see how many people were making use of split screen, and maybe the numbers didn't come up to their favor, that sort of thing. But again, it seems like it wouldn't be that much more work. Like if you're doing like a racing game or a first-person shooter deathmatch or something like that. 2 cameras is twice the rendering. Well, not exactly. I mean, it's this, because it's, the pixels are part of it. Your resolution is part of it. However, there can be more processing like on the CPU side for that. No, it's not twice the workload for sure, but it's uneven. It depends on what you're tapping. But how many cores do we have on modern consoles now anyway? You'd think they could, let's see, a 4-player co-op in Black Ops, 2 zombies was like 10 frames per second on Xbox One. Huh. Well, I mean, I guess we might need a more technical discussion. Let's see. This is the sort of thing where you might have to get like someone a little more technical on the programming end of things to like give you a more definite answer. I imagine it varies, but it definitely is more of a load. But if it's something like, say it's a game on PC, I mean, you could play it a game. There's less of an excuse there because fine, set the quality low, let's go, or it tries to aim for target frame rates, that sort of thing. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not really buying not having it. I guess what I'm saying is I can understand if like the demographics don't work out the way they want it to, but I don't think it is that if you're just keeping the optimization levels about the same. So in other words, you're not going through all these additional tricks. It's not, I don't think it'd be that much more work to just have it as an option. Now, optimization is a whole lot of work. So, like the person said, if 4-player co-op goes to 10 frames a second, then yeah, then well, what that means is the single player was optimized to hell and back. And so when they can't pull all these same tricks, then it goes to the floor. It's like I mentioned at Echo. It's like, yeah, if we don't have anti-aliasing and a clean image quality, then yeah, we can get away with all these shiny there's something I left out of the episode for time, but I was thinking it. You can see. Well, actually, I think this might tie into one of the other questions, so we'll see if that happens. If I wasn't imagining this, okay. So okay, I'll keep moving on, but yeah, I'm really not. I really don't not seeing the excuse to not have that for PC games, and unless it's just. It is a lot of work adding like a multiplayer component, but if you already have that online, I'm not sure how much more work that'd be just to have it locally and just run the game at low quality if you want more people or something like that. So, okay. What type of RPG town NPC would you want to be? Merchant, barkeep, guard, etc. Yeah, I don't know if anything really screamed out to me. For some reason, I got the image in my head that I would be this person at the edge of town, like digging some tunnel. And then like you come back later in the game and I'm gone, but now the tunnel leads to some cavern system that you can explore from there. So I don't know. That's I've seen games like that where like the NPCs working on something and later they're gone, but then it unlocks a new area. I think that's I don't know, that felt like something I would do. So why did you drop the awards from Game Dungeon? It's mixed feelings because like I've had both comments of people saying they like them and then other people saying they felt repetitive. And I was feeling for some of them they did feel kind of repetitive. So I was thinking, well, so the other thing is that does slow down the episodes because then I have to find the imagery to go with the awards and restructure things. I mean, if people really want them back, I can maybe think of something. I thought of something after the fact that I should have given. I mean, I thought of some for Echo. Like I was thinking, like I was like a prick AI because I was tempted to say like worst AI, but I realized no, it's not the worst because London was still on your side more or less. And I was thinking the worst AI would be one that's pretending to help you and then not or sabotaging you. I think when it really, but like this, they're not gone permanently. It's just that I want to feel like I really have good ones for that. And I'm not just retreading the same territory. But I realized one I should have added for Echo after I made the episode was needs a UPC. Yeah, most in need of a UPC. You know, the idea is like the power keeps going out, so you want to keep that. You want to keep the power on, get rid of the blackouts. And apologies for flashing so much black in your face from the Echo episode with the fade outs. I was almost feeling bad showing people the Spider-Man 2 trailer, but it's like this is really irritating. I don't want to do this to people, but I kind of want to make the point too. So it was getting on my nerves. So I try not to do it any more than necessary. Let's see. All right, some more questions. You liked Echo's World. Do you know of any other games that have architectures like that? I love that type of stuff, and it's so hard to find, I think. And then somebody's mentioning Manifold Garden. I hadn't heard of that. I looked it up. Yeah, it looks weird. It looks more like an Escher structure thing, but also has this kind of flat cell shaded look at it that wasn't quite grabbing me. I think I read that the Echo Palace was inspired by the Palace of Versailles. You know, or so I guess that I guess you could. There might be some palaces. Might be some. I think there are some scenes like that in what Assassin's Creed Unity, but that's not the same thing. This is they're taking it to the next level with just having overly elaborate stuff. I can't think of many offhand, actually. Yeah, feel free to suggest some in the chat of like games that have just these incredible grandiose structures, that just kind of keep going on and on. Because I love that sort of thing, and that's the perfect thing to have in games because you don't have the limits in games. I mean, obviously, if you're trying to set a game in a realistic or contemporary setting, you're not going to have that. But science fiction game, why be limited to anything? I mean, it's not even like a processing power thing too, because with like level of detail options, you can really do a lot. So I was saying Warhammer 40K games has some pretty crazy architecture. Well, which ones? I played Space Marine, and it was just. I mean, it kind of honestly felt more like a bunch of factory and rubble but like the setting. I was not wowed by the setting of Space Marine. It's the combat that makes that game. But I probably haven't even touched a lot of the turn-based ones. I'm gonna play the Battlefleet Gothica one at some point. Let's see. Well, I haven't played them, but I've heard. I'll probably check them out or at least watch a playthrough or something. I've heard like Near Automata? Yeah, has very impressive environments, I've heard. But I haven't played them. So I'm guessing there might be some sort of like JRPGs or kind of anime-styled games that might have more of this sort of thing that I'm just unfamiliar with because I tend not to play many of those. But yeah, I mean, you'd think there'd be several games like, I mean, for what Echo was doing, you could have had something like this almost on the Doom engine or like Quaker. So obviously we wouldn't have nearly the detail, but just like this palace that just kind of keeps going or just totally out there architecture, and elaborate. That's okay. Somebody's saying Final Fantasy 14. Yeah, which I haven't played. Yeah, that's the MMO one, isn't it? Or no, there's two MMOs. I think there's like 11 and 14. Okay, somebody's saying they don't know about the environment. Let's see. Okay, somebody's saying I Divine Cybermancy. I only played like the beginning of I Divine Cybermancy, so I didn't get too far into it. But yeah, man, I'm drawing a blank. Like I feel like there must be others, but I'm not. Okay, Abzu and Journey I haven't played. I have a copy of Abzu. Yeah, you'd think there'd be a lot more of this sort of thing, but there hasn't been that I've seen. So, yeah, there's an opening there for game developers. How good are you at skateboarding? Not very good. I've tried. I can't even do an ollie. I mean, I have some basic balance, but that's it. I never picked it up. I'm a lot better with like bikes or like minor bike stunts. Like I can do wheelies pretty dependably on bikes, and I can do stoppies not reliably. That's where it's basically the opposite of a wheelie where you're kind of kicking the rear tire in the air. I can do jumps pretty easily. Well, I mean, just like say you're biking along and there's a curb coming at you, I can do the jump onto the curb like smooth as can be for that. I'm not sure how high I could jump on a bike. Let's see. I bet if I had I bet I could get onto the hood of a car. Yeah. I bet I could get onto a hood of a car and then the roof from there on a bike. I mean, I'm not like a master or anything, but it's. But yeah, skateboarding. I wanted to be better at skateboarding, but I didn't get past a certain practice wall, I guess. You know, where just never quite picked it up. But bikes, like, yeah, well, the easy one, you know, you can bicycle without using your hands. I can bicycle on ice, though carefully. I'm not doing insane tricks. I've never done a flip on a bike, except maybe for one accident, and then I'm not sure. Well, no, if I did the flip, it probably wasn't on the bike itself. It was probably just me. So, yeah, let's see. But yeah, that's about nothing too impressive. But you know, I could hold my own. Yeah, like on a bike or a BMX or something like that. Let's see. Oh yeah, they're asking about the editor. No, the game dungeon. This is one I was using as a test for many of the editors, where I had them edit the first 5 minutes of it, and then gave instructions how I want it to go. And yeah, I guess this is an appropriate episode to be seeing over and over again. Or seeing copies of yourself in the game. But, and I would just kind of look and see how they handled it. And some things I realized were just, I wasn't clear enough with my directions, so I wasn't docking them for that. But then there's other parts that were kind of more open-ended, like in the beginning scene, like how editors handled that whole descent, where, you know, where you land on the planet and then you go from there to the doorway. I wanted to see like which shots they were taking. I was just given like real light instructions and I think I still need to check like 2 or 3 after the fact because they came in more recently. Yeah, but basically these are ones that came in after I finally decided to just start editing it myself. Out of the editors, 2 of them kind of made it to round 2, where I wanted to see how they handled like the next portion, where, you know, you're walking into the palace and kind of looking around. Because that one, it was like the next 5 minutes. It was up until the doppelganger first grabs you. And one person, they were showing promise at the cuts, and then so I gave some directions. See, and then I felt like the revision came out worse than the original. I was thinking, uh-oh, this isn't good. Because with the other editors, if I gave like a revision for the ones I did for that, then it was an improvement. But and then one of them, I think they ended up, or I might have to check. They ended up getting too busy. They just basically disappeared on me for like a month. So, but I think they did reply. So I need to go back and look at their additional 5 minutes. So it was. Yeah, I've seen a whole lot of that first 5 minutes, a lot, you know, with, you know, the introduction of everything. So, but though that was actually a pretty decent sample because I'm doing a lot of things in that, because we have the more open-ended area. We have the parts I kind of wanted to match to what was happening in the footage. We have like a side clip from Eon Flux in there with the menu. So it was actually a pretty good variety test just by coincidence. So. Okay, should keep going. Have you ever figured out whose face is shown in that one level in Baldi's? No. And has anyone contacted you about whether Baldi Atlantis is real? No, it looks like there might not have been a pattern there, so. I'll definitely talk about Baldi's in the next follow-up episode. Oh yeah, the topic of cheap drama on TV shows is always brought up. Would you consider making a video about it, like the Star Trek episode? Maybe, but I'm not really linked towards it for 2 reasons. One is I feel like if I do that, I really need to come correct and have comparable scenes in other shows where they did it right. And it would take me a long time to figure out, like, okay, which one, where instead of filling this with just pointless drama, let's show like real drama, or let's show some other filler material that's more entertaining, that sort of thing. You know, and it would take me a while to hunt down and like think of examples to do side by side to make a real coherent picture. I'm sure people are familiar with this, but there's some thoughts in my head where I know this is the case, and I'm pretty sure I could prove it given a long enough time, but man, it might take me a lot of research to figure out exactly how to lay this out in a coherent way that everybody understands, and like it's undeniable, the problem that you're seeing compared to something better. I think the last time I tried to do that was with the GUI video, and that was still all over the place. So it's like, I know there's a problem there, and but I was really motivated on that. So this one's, and the other reason is, hey, some people like the soap opera stuff. I'm not trying to, if that's what you want in a show, fine. But my issue with that is, that's why Walking Dead is such a juicy target. Because, okay, I mean, I could be completely wrong here, but I keep thinking, who wants to watch a zombie survival, TV show or movie or something like that? What does this demographic want? Is there a high overlap between that audience and people who like soap operas? Or just like relationship issues and dramatic. See, I don't think the overlap's that high. Like, I mean, I'm sure they exist, but it's not there. Whereas those people, they're probably going to want to see more action or more like existential consequences of the world ending, or survival show like, hey, how are we surviving? How are we going to filter our water or find supplies? I figure there's going to be a much higher crossover of stuff like that on like a zombie show than or I mean, you can have some drama, but it's like the ratio just, it's like the drama, you want the drama centering around, oh God, this person's been bitten, or okay, it's been a long time since I've seen it, but I'm thinking of like Day of the Dead by the original by Romero. Like, that had some drama in it, and that was all pretty compelling, I thought, that I remembered. Like, there's this real tension between the leaders and the followers, and you can kind of see there's like this worry about how long they're going to be able to hold out like this. See, that's the kind of drama that goes well with like a zombie show. Because I'm thinking the people who like the relationship drama and people talking about how their feelings and they're not sure how they feel about this person, and I figure those are the types of people who probably would rather just see more relationship issues and not zombies and people getting their heads cut off and stuff like that. I felt like those two demographics, they don't overlap so much, I don't think. But they probably have like a lighter show where like the drama is about like an out of wedlock pregnancy, or somebody's having an affair, or or just I don't know. See, I get it that people are going to be interested in different things, but I just doesn't strike me like the demographics so high for that. But maybe it's I don't know. Well, even then, this is why I'm hesitant to do a video on it, because I really have to identify this and know what I'm talking about, where it's like I don't, this feeling is flaring up in me, whereas, again, like I'm thinking of like a drama like American History X or Requiem for a Dream, where, yeah, that's some serious drama, and it's really well done, and it's intense. I don't feel like I'm getting that canned drama moment. I feel like they're really earning it. So I'd have to go through methodically and look through, okay, why does this drama feel cheap and this drama feels really sincere and hard-hitting, that sort of thing. And man, it would take me a long time to figure that out, exactly why. So, yeah, this actually made me think, yeah, okay, well, here, I had this thought earlier. I was actually having, okay, well, here's part of, this might be part of it. Because I got lucky. A week or so ago, I watched one of the Far Cry 6 trailers, like the gameplay one, not the one, not the story one where it has the kid holding the grenade, but just the general gameplay one. And it, for whatever reason, it just felt so uninspiring to me. I was just like, I'm just not feeling excited about this. And it got me thinking, like, one trailer I love, a game trailer, well, there are multiple versions. I think this is like what was for Wolfenstein, The New Order. I think it's like the Rising Sun version. They have multiple ones, but I loved how that one was cut together. And I realized they both seem to be kind of following similar steps where they're talking about, you know, some of the lines are a little cliched. You know, like, oh, we got to take down the authority. But I was thinking, and there were two things that I loved so much more about the Wolfenstein New Order. I'll give a link to the one I'm thinking of. It's let's see, because there's multiple ones, and there's one that just felt like nailed it. It just got me fired up over it. Let's see. It's this one where they're playing like the German version of the German alternate reality version of House of the Rising Sun. Yeah, I think this is the one. Okay, yeah, I'll put it in the chat now, but yeah, because you may not want to watch that while I'm talking over it. But yeah, this trailer is awesome. It's bloody though. Watch out if you're sensitive to that. But I'll put a link in the description on YouTube. But I thought about, there were two things. Well, one, I really love like how it was composed. That was one thing. It kind of built up, and then they enter in with this. Again, it's like this waltz version of House of the Rising Sun, which I love that song to begin with, so that helped. But cut to this just intense action, and then but I realized that was part of it. But then I realized the big difference between that and what I saw in the Far Cry 6 trailer is I felt like in the Wolfenstein trailer, I felt like every character cares. Like everybody's giving 100%. Like the Nazis, these guys seem brutal and they seem like they want to keep their regime. And then and then BJ Blazkowicz, you know, he's thinking like, I've got to stop. Yeah, it's like, BJ, what have you been up to? Killing, stabbing, strangling Nazis. Like he's just like, you get this feeling that he's just like this unstoppable force in like this brutal environment that it's just, I loved it. Like how it's like getting you excited because you feel like he's just not gonna back down for anything. And I feel like that's the secret, is have your characters care about what they're doing. And I just wasn't getting that feel from the Far Cry 6. Although I forget his name, the guy who's in Breaking Bad, he's the villain in Far Cry 6. I felt like he did a good job. Like there's this part where they ask him about, that was like the only part of the trailer I liked, where they asked him about these terrorist forces, and you can tell like this was like a faux pas topic for, he's like a dictator or something, and you see him pause, and then you just see him smile, you know, like this kind of like calculated smile talking about it. So, yeah, I'm sure people put his name in the chat. I forget it offhand. So I felt like, okay, I feel like that character is bringing his A game, you know, and I feel like the Wolfenstein characters, they all feel like devoted and just, they're ready to go. Both the good guys and the bad guys. I feel like that's the secret. You have to sell the audience on making sure that your characters care, if you wanted like the story to like carry the weight and like be motivated by their actions. Because if they just kind of feel, see, like, was it the woman that I saw on Far Cry 6? Yeah, she's talking about how she's, you know, motivated to, I think, to bring down this regime and everything, but I'm not feeling it. Like she wasn't convincing me. Whereas, who is it? Like Caroline in the Wolfenstein trailer, it's like she's in a wheelchair and she's talking about what the Nazis have done to her, and yeah, she's swapping stories with BJ about like how wrecked they've been, and they're just like, I don't know. It's a subtle. I think that was the difference. Is I want to. Yeah, I think I was, but yeah, I think that's the secret, is to why I just wasn't getting that feeling from Far Cry 6, but I was from Wolfenstein. Is I feel like everybody cares in Wolfenstein in that trailer. So. Well, actually, I did play Youngblood. I thought it was so-so. I haven't seen the trailer for it though, but wait, no, not Young. No, I've seen Old Blood. You're right. I haven't played Youngblood. I've played Old Blood. Yeah, the Old Blood. That one was more so-so for me. It didn't quite. The New Order I thought was more. That's probably my favorite of the new ones. I haven't played Youngblood. But yeah, I love that trailer. I may rearrange things a lot because the movie's not going to have that level of action, but I may steal some elements from that trailer for the movie trailer from the Wolfenstein one. I mean, it's brutal, but it's not the brutality of it that I want to show. I love how that builds. You know, they're showing how awful everything is, and then just they sell you on the idea of just BJ being just unrelenting, just unstoppable. You know, and it's okay. I should keep moving on. How is food in Poland compared to America? Which video game character would you want as your 24/7 bodyguard? You know, well, for food, the first thing I noticed, well, you're going to have less variety, I think, than you would in America. But the first thing I noticed coming here was that the food in general tasted fresher and it spoiled sooner. However, to not make it all seem better, I've noticed in the past 2 years, it seems like I have like an allergic reaction to almost everything I'm eating to various degrees. Like, actually, it was kind of, let's see, you can kind of see it on the camera a little bit. It might look like I have a bit of a birthmark on the side of my face. It was a lot worse earlier. All I've eaten today was I had like a banana for breakfast, and then I had, like, for lunch, I just had beans and onions. That's it. I didn't add anything. And then that made my face break out, and then, like, with skin flaking, and then, like, these red patches on my... Get tested for celiac disease. Okay. I don't know what that means. But it's... I don't know what it is. So I'm almost thinking it might be like pesticides or something that I'm reacting to. This didn't happen when I first came here, but I went and saw a specialist about it before the pandemic, and they basically recommended like steroids or something. I was thinking, well, that might be all right if I needed to treat it in the short term, but that doesn't sound like a long... that seems like overkill for something that's long term, especially if we don't know what the cause is. And the thing is, when I had like blood work tested and it showed a heavy alert, they said I was in great health, except that I was really having allergic reactions to something. So, it always flares up with food. Like if I don't eat, then it goes away. But if I eat, then it's messed up. So yeah, I don't know. But that could just be me. Yeah, so no, I'm not taking a type of steroids to treat this unless it was really explained to me that this is like a temporary thing and then that'll cure it and then I'm done. Because no, I tend to think of steroids as something you take when like your body is so weak that you're gonna need this to maybe stay alive. Like, I don't know, but even then, that would be. I mean, there are legitimate uses for it, but like, that's generally what I've heard is what it's best for. So, but yeah, so I feel I've had this happen, like eating nothing but lentils, like just like blueberries, and like. It seems like there's eggs. It seems like there's no pattern at all. I mean, some foods will really trigger it. Like, I should probably avoid Chinese food. That one tends to just really flare it up. But I don't know what's wrong with me, but that's probably not related to the food. For video game character as your 24/7 bodyguard, well, I don't think I really need a bodyguard, but I remember, I forget from some podcast or something, they were asking, who would you rather have as your bodyguard? And it was like Duke Nukem or Batman. And I think I have to agree and go with Batman because Duke Nukem would probably ensure they were put down, but he might not be able to protect you. I think Batman would probably be more concerned about your overall safety. So, yeah, you want a bodyguard more focused on prevention rather than revenge or neutralization. So somebody's saying Agent 47. Okay, maybe. I still need to play through the Hitman series. So. Yeah, Agent 47 would probably be pretty solid because he's analyzing all kinds of things from what I know of the game. But let's see. Okay, more questions. One of the main themes in Freeman's mind is that when faced with a bad situation, you have to keep moving forward until things get better, which sounds like something you apply to your own life. Was this theme intentional? Are there any other subtler themes you may have inserted into the series? No, it's not intentional. It's more just, I try to treat, that probably happened just from me doing it unconsciously. I try to approach from Freeman's mind that this is real and actually happening to them. So the amount of hell the game throws at you, I guess some of myself is rubbing off on that part where, it doesn't help to just mope and despair about this. Plus, it doesn't make for as fun video footage. So just gotta power through it somehow. But if I'm treating what's happening as real, there's a whole lot of bad stuff happening to him. So. As for subtler themes, not really. For Freeman's mind isn't meant to be particularly deep, Let's see. Okay, this person's asked, they're saying the field of cultured meat grown in a lab instead of from slaughter has progressed a bit in recent years. Assuming the production eventually becomes cheaper than livestock, would you shift over to buying cultured meat instead of traditional meat products? Yeah, why not? As long as it's healthy and they're not doing crazy stuff from it. Yeah, that is one thing probably in Europe's favor. I think there's I want to say there's a dozen or maybe 15 practices the U.S. uses to treat meat that are basically banned in Europe. I think one of them is chlorine washing, but there's a list of them. I'm thinking, it's, once you get into that stuff, it's it's probably safe in the short term, but in the long term, who knows? It's, so, but yeah, if it's, I'm not particularly picky. If it tastes all right and it's similar health, then why not? Then, honestly, if it tasted as good and the health, it was about as healthy, that's actually the sort of thing that could change the entire agricultural industry. Because I was thinking of the analogy of how cars replaced horses. That could replace a lot of livestock because, well, you might have two advantages too, because if it's lab cultured, then you could take the very best meat that's available and from actual animals and be cloning that or cultivating that. Yeah, I always thought about that in Star Trek, how replicator food would probably be some of the best you've ever had because they could just copy the absolute best recipes using the absolute best ingredients. And why would you use anything else if it's all the same? So, well, yeah, touche. Happy Pancake Dude we can't eat cars, Ross. That's not a... Yeah, yeah. Oh, I misread. I thought you said that's not the same thing, you know. But yeah, well, because I mean, it's a lot of work to raise and slaughter an animal, you know, a lot of resources where if you could do it in a lab and the results are as good, then the that could replace most livestock and that would just be kind of kept for specialty cases where people want the authentic version or what or just want to raise the animals because they like the animals, you know. Uh, so yeah, I'm, but that's saying all things being equal. It could be in the process of culturing it, they add some chemical compounds that are very iffy, and we're not sure what they do. So in which case, I understand why people would want originals. So it's not always an equal comparison, but yeah, I mean, if it is, why not? Which game dungeon was the biggest rabbit hole? I'm not sure, but I remember feeling like I was in pretty deep on Armed and Delirious. That one, that was pretty time consuming too. But I mean, yeah, okay. Well, I feel like sometimes with these questions, I really need to have like a roster brought up of all of them and have to go by them one by one. I tend to move on in my mind to other stuff, so I don't always remember the exact details of every one unless it was particularly scarring. Or let's see. If it wasn't Half-Life, what other game do you think you would have done a Mind series for? I'm not sure I would have because it's kind of the reverse, where I did it for Half-Life because I was using the Source engine. Because I did Civil Protection first. I just wanted to do something faster that wasn't like that, and that was just kind of like a whim experiment for me for Freeman's Mind. I think Doom 3 at the time was like the contender for possibly having enough animation tools to make something like Civil Protection, except in Doom 3's, it would probably be like a prequel to Doom 3 before it's invaded by demons. You know, with probably have the same Mike and Dave characters. But I don't know if that would have led to voiceover series like for Half-Life. I might have tried something else. But the Source engine had the better animation tools than almost any other game at the time. So that's why it went out. I might have just done something totally different. I don't know. See, I'm going to have to make another episode. You've expressed extreme dislike for turn-based combat in the past, especially... Oh, okay, I thought he was saying it was illogical that I was thinking that. No, there are real reasons, but... they're wondering what my thoughts on Mario RPG-like combat are. I haven't played that, but I have played Chrono Trigger, which was kind of a pseudo turn-based combat where it's not exactly rigid turns. It's a timer thing. It's similar feelings for me. It just kind of holds up the. It holds up the fight. You know, it's like, yeah, let's get going with the action if we're gonna have a fight. So. Yeah, my brain. I don't know. It's kind of weird because I can appreciate all out action in games, but then I can also appreciate like slow graphic adventure games where you're talking to people solving puzzles. It's just that I don't know. My brain just associates fighting with like, yeah, let's go and fight. Whereas if we're having like a long dialogue or puzzles, like okay, well that's we're in like slow, more careful thinking kind of mode, that sort of thing. But even then, even strategy games are kind of a mix. Can be kind of a mix sometimes, where it's a bit of a puzzle on the fly. But even then, I still want to see the troops or units go out and just start fighting and not wait their turns. So I don't know. What do you think of fractals or other unusual shapes like Mobius strip, Klein bottle, etc.? It's kind of alienating and cold, but I mean, I don't know. I don't really have like strong feelings about this, but Well, stuff like Mobius strips and Climb Bottle are more interesting because it's kind of like bends reality to think about it. Okay, I might start trimming some of the questions. One's asking if I think they're overlooked first-person shooters from the late 90s to early to mid-2000s. Probably not a bunch that I can think of. The thing is, I'm still not big on first-person shooters prior to mouse aiming. Mouse aiming makes a huge difference for me. I'm not... Realms of the Haunting was the one I really wanted to try out that kind of predated that. But I'm sure with Civi 11, this sounds more like his wheelhouse. I've played some obscure ones, but the thing is, the obscure ones aren't always that great. So, I mean, I covered Strife. I really enjoyed that one. Yeah, in fact, I've done some of that in VR now. Yeah, I think I talked about that last time. But yeah, because there was a lot of Doom clones in the late 90s. But again, most of those predate mouse aiming. Now, of course, Doom ended up getting that through a port, but a lot of those like off the beaten path games didn't really get ports. So. Let's see. Do you have a top fan? Not really. A lot of this stuff blurs together for me. Sorry. Let's see. Oh, wait. Oh yeah, they're asking who who's been watching your vids so long. No, I don't keep. I almost want to change the graphic on the email page, or maybe there isn't a graphic. Add a graphic on the email page just showing like a hand sticking out like a zombie coming from the grave from a pile of emails. I just got to get on top of responding to more people. So, let's see. Have you seen a lot of growth in your channel? I actually haven't even been paying a lot of attention to it. I have enough that I'm okay treading water, so I figured the best thing to do is just get more videos out. I don't. Looking at analytics just stresses me out. I don't. It just takes me back to when like everything was dependent on YouTube performance, which just feels awful generally. No, I haven't had crazy dreams lately. That's another question. Okay, I'm gonna start getting pickier on questions. Well, someone's asking if I had knowledge and time, which game would I mod? And then somebody suggested The Crew. And I thought, yeah, that's a pretty good pick. So I still would like that kind of traveling all over America experience, and then you could add all kinds of things to it. I'd love to see something like that combined with like what people do in like Skyrim mods or Fallout stuff, where they could kind of create these own little quest lines that you could unlock in territories, so you can make those towns that much more significant, and let people add to it, like have excuses to go to different places. Oh yeah, this one was. They're asking the most absurd true story I know. I don't know off the top of my head. Okay, wait a minute. Reddit decided to rearrange how these are ordered by points. So now maybe there is no order now. I'm looking at the, or did I click the wrong thing? Here, it is sorted by, I'm not seeing how it's sorted. Okay, well, I don't know what happened then. I'm sure I could come up with better if I contemplated. But I remember one, I used to live in Blacksburg in Virginia. And I remember when my parents and I first moved there, like in the news, was the story about this guy who was in a car chase with the police, and he ended up driving onto a golf course, and then he saw one of the golfers, drove over to him, roll his window down. He's probably high as a kite too. He says, like, why are all these people chasing me? And then the golfer said, well, you are driving on a golf course. And he said, oh, come on, man. Like, so that always stuck out with me for absurd true stories. Jeez, I have to, but yeah, I'm sure you can get a lot crazier than that. Man, I have to, I have to document more of this stuff. Well, there's, well, if I ever get this is something where if I can afford to have it animated, I have an idea for one that I think will make a good YouTube video. So I don't want to give that one away. This was kind of nuts. I think it'd be hilarious. It would be short. Let's see. Yeah, sorry, I'm drawing a blank. I have to think about this harder. Oh yeah, this was, okay, this one made, this is a good question though. I have several thoughts on it that aren't especially connected, so this might get all over the place. So again, kind of like the GUI video, but worse because I'm doing it right now as opposed to having a script. And they're saying, in the last chapter, there was a discussion of cryptocurrency. It's the future of money. I was surprised no one brought up the environmental impacts of crypto mining. I feel there's no way this can be, you can be an environmentalist or even care about climate change, being an advocate for this stuff. And they give several links about how high the energy usage is. Can you see other ways to try to deal with this, the downfalls or current fiat currency? Well, I don't even know if cryptocurrency is the answer to fiat currency in itself. I mean, it in some ways it obviously is. In other ways, this might not last, you know? Okay, so yeah, several thoughts that aren't arranged particularly well. I guess my primary thought on this is you are right. Cryptocurrency mining uses a tremendous amount of energy. However, that's only like the tip of the iceberg as far as like total energy usage. And you mentioned like global warming for like emissions from generating the energy. So it's not the biggest problem. In fact, I looked this up after I saw this question. The amount of energy, the amount of global energy usage that cryptocurrency mining uses is about, I think it was like 0.5% or like 0.5, it might be in like 0.5, 0.6% for, and it might have just been Bitcoin though, so it could be a little higher. But that gives you an idea of the scale of the problem. So even if we would just magically shut down all cryptocurrency mining, aside from things being a lot better for gaming, it wouldn't make much of a dent in overall energy usage overall. This is why in these chats, I always say, I keep coming to the conclusion that we are overextended with our resource usage, that we can keep this up for now, but in the future, it's gonna keep going on. So that said, I'm not trying to downplay it because it uses an incredible amount of energy. Although one thing, again, I did a little bit of research. One thing that wasn't clear to me was that I've seen multiple conflicting articles saying, one, Bitcoin uses more energy than gold mining, and another one saying, no, absolutely not. Gold mining uses, geez, what was the metric? It was something like, it was like terajoule years or something. Let's see. Well, I forget, but let's see, gold mining energy usage. Let's, because I think like per dollar, Bitcoin uses it more, but that's constantly in flux, like per dollar value, but that's constantly in flux anyway. Let's see, what was the metric? Because there were a lot of articles in 2018 saying Bitcoin uses more, and then I saw some in 2019 and some in 2021 saying no, gold mining uses more. Because those are kind of sharing similar things. But the thing is, gold could have a much worse, potentially much worse environmental impact because mining can be really dirty as far as the environment goes. Okay, yeah, so I think Bitcoin uses, depending where you get the numbers, well, yeah, that's true. They're mostly looking at Bitcoin. So for all of cryptocurrency, it could be higher. They're saying, I've seen numbers between 120 and 132, just from like really basic research, nothing authoritative. Terawatt hours per year. And then for gold mining, I saw somewhere between like 150 to 450. So that's a big discrepancy. So it's actually rare that I see such stark conflicting data like this of saying, no, this one's this one's like this. And then when you examine a little more, usually with these issues, I find, okay, this is in this certain situation, they're kind of like cooking the number representation to make it look this way. Or like this one is, this isn't good for that. This one, it would just seem like two different data sets brought to the table where I couldn't make out what was happening. So I think that would take a lot more research. But the point is that's still 0.5% of global energy usage. So I guess the point is so stuff like it's not helping. I agree. And I also see that from a certain perspective, there is a certain madness to all of this in the sense that stuff like cryptocurrency, it's all made up. Like it's all made up rules that this requires this kind of energy consumption in the first place. But it's just sort of it's kind of the free market at work where the dominant player, which I think is mostly Bitcoin, is the one that's on top because it was the first one that worked. So I think. So even though there might be better cryptocurrencies, that's the other thing. There might be better cryptocurrencies that don't have this kind of energy consumption or incentive because there's like thousands of them, but they haven't made it to the top. The one that is good and makes the most sense might be the 587th most popular one. So it might not be in line at all. The thing is, I'm not sure how the very smart people involved with this. So I'm not sure, at first glance, I'm not sure how you would solve the problem where I can absolutely imagine cryptocurrencies that don't require a lot of mining to basically produce or circulate. But the thing is, Bitcoin keeps it up because it's like basically a peer-to-peer network. And there's incentive in running those nodes for the miners that keeps it going. So it's like the incentive is kind of the incentive for more energy use is kind of built in because even if we mined all the Bitcoin, there's like 21 million, there would still be some incentive to keep mining because some is like, my understanding of it is some is like turned back to the network when you make transactions and then that kind of frees it up. So there's always these like little bits floating around that they can kind of reclaim to create an incentive for it. So there probably are smart people who have solved that problem so that there's incentive without having all this demand for increased processing on it. But I don't know much about that. But so I guess I'm fine. I guess I'm fine with people wanting to like crack down on cryptocurrency for energy usage as long as they don't stop there. Because if they just stop there, then it's almost like doing nothing almost in the grand scheme of things. Like if you wanted to really crack down on cryptocurrency usage from an environmental perspective, what you would want to do, I think, is just raise the cost of energy. But the thing is, you can't just do that without causing like a atomic bomb of other consequences to people because people need energy to basically live in modern society and for things to do. So it's like you remove one block, you got to put in a bunch more to support it, and it could become kind of like a cogwork mess. I guess what you could have it scale so potentially so that like energy usage above a certain level gets priced like way higher, but So if you're just an average family or something, you're not going to be approaching these limits. But if you're like, let's say you're like smelting iron or something like that, then it would shoot way up. So that's the other thing. It's not just, yeah, for greenhouse gases. I think cryptocurrency is literally a fraction of a percent for its total usage. Transportation is a huge part of it. Energy production is a huge part. I think it's like 25% or something like that. Again, it depends on what statistics you're looking at. Yeah, transportation and energy are huge, and also industry and agriculture are other big ones too. So like I think I did a quick check under industries, stuff like metal processing, chemicals production, oil, anything related to oil or petroleum are big ones too. And so those are probably the bigger targets you want to hit first. Like, so yeah, it's a mess, kind of. That's why I keep coming back to like the problem. I just see us as overextended, and that's why I've come back before that. Really, if we were kind of more sane, we'd be trying to reduce population in the long term. And I'll say this again because it's the internet. I mean non-lethally. So try to incentivize more use of birth control and having less children, that sort of thing. But it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, because doing that lowers our odds for ecological collapse, but then it leaves you at a disadvantage economically in like the global stage of things, where you may not be able to support your population the same way or produce the resources that are needed. So basically, every time I look at this problem, all answers come back to we're overextended and we need to scale down. Like that's the only answer I come up with for all this stuff. And that's not a popular answer, nor are we particularly going that direction. So it's the fog of badness territory. With I had like another thought or two on cryptocurrency. Oh yeah, well that was one of them. That's also why. Yeah, there was an announcement a few months back. I think how was it? Elon Musk bought like I want to say it was like $1 billion. How much did he buy worth of Bitcoin? Or had Tesla purchase Bitcoin, and he was cheerleading it. Like let's see, how much? Yeah, 1.5 billion in Bitcoin at the time, and then like a few months later, he's just like, oh no, we're backing out of this because of the energy consumption so high. It's like you didn't know that going in. So I feel like, to me, that says there's only one of two conclusions. One, either he was lying and this is part of some financial manipulation scheme, which maybe, I have no idea. Or two, he was kind of ignorant about his $1.5 billion purchase. So if you ever think like the super rich know everything, he doesn't. So this would have been like the equivalent of like an impulse buy. Like you bought a game you thought looks cool, and then you find out, oh, this game's not that good or something like that. So he did that with like 1.5. So either he's lying, and it was some elaborate pump and dump scheme, or the richest man in the world is kind of ignorant about what he's spending his money on. Because I knew that. I knew it had. I mean, I didn't know that. I think maybe 6 years ago, but like okay, somebody's saying he's lying, or well, no, I don't think this one can be, but well, it could be both, but not in this particular issue. You'd have to. Yeah, so it's yeah. There's no. I mean, this is one. I can understand. There's all sorts of aspects of Bitcoin that people may not know about because they get extremely technical and the dynamics. But knowing that it uses a lot of energy, you didn't know that one. I had no idea that this kind of. It kind of felt like the dog ate my homework kind of excuse. Like it's scroll up, Ross. Yeah, well, I don't always see all the things, but I don't always see all the messages. I haven't seen a Saturday Night Live skip. I haven't really been too impressed by Saturday Night Live stuff. I think I think random YouTubers could probably make a lot funnier stuff than Saturday Night Live nowadays. But yeah, I think there's one more thought I had on cryptocurrency that I forgot about. But yeah, it's a complex problem because you want to reduce energy use. Oh yeah, that was one. Some cryptocurrency, even though we still have that madness in the sense that these are all made up rules, and the only reason it's consuming this much energy is because somebody came up with some rules to say it's almost. I mean, it's kind of. It's like it's real and it isn't, because it isn't, because it's all just made up. It's code. You know, we could have had different energy standards for Bitcoin or incentives so that there wouldn't be a mania about mining this and exerting just ungodly amounts of energy on this. But at the same time, it's real now because now it's here and having real world effects on the economy. So it's just all kind of. It's all, it's like it's real and it isn't. So, but also it's, when you consider something like gold, I mean, there is some application of gold, but it's mostly just for store of value and jewelry, which is part of it too. Like, I'm even in jewelry, I think that's still part of the store of value, because I'm sure you could have metals that look a lot like gold if you just want the look of gold. But no, it has value because of its scarcity, and we've just decided on that. So it's, I kind of agree with that. All money has made up rules. Yeah, it does. It really does. So it sounds, depending on which article you read, if you wanted to research it, it sounds like you have your work laid out for you. Gold might be dirtier and use more energy than Bitcoin mining, but maybe not for cryptocurrency mining as a whole, even though cryptocurrency is the lion's share. So it's, I mean, it strikes me as insane as the rest of what we do with economics, though I don't know if I have I don't know if I have a simple answer for that, because again, you raise the price of electricity, that causes so many other consequences that you have to accommodate for. So yeah, it's not just a simple swap. It's like you need wide systemic change. Well, that's kind of what I was getting at in the last follow-up, is that our entire economic system still kind of depends on infinite growth or perpetual growth. That you can't keep that going forever without starships. So we're gonna see weird things happen as we start approaching the limits, But yeah, no, that's what I would get at. You're absolutely right, and it is incredibly wasteful. But at the same time, it's only the tip of the iceberg, and any solutions that only focus on cryptocurrency aren't going to save us. It needs to be bigger. Hey, we did not have global warming. Cryptocurrency did not cause global warming, all right? I mean, it's just, I think oil is way bigger of a culprit than cryptocurrency has been. So yeah, it's not helping, but it's. Okay. I sidetracked my own thought. The other thought I have is, even though I think it's still mostly not great, it partially depends on what kind of energy. Because, like, say you have like a oil refinery, they're just there mining oil or drilling oil, but they'll also get natural gas deposits with it. But they don't have the infrastructure set up to capture the natural gas and market that too, or maybe there's not a market for it in that region. So they'll just burn it off and flare it. So they just burn the natural gas as it comes out of the ground. Well, if you convert that to generating power, and then you're using that to drive the Bitcoin mining, well, then it's sort of, it comes out net neutral. It doesn't change anything. But I think most of the energy production isn't like that. And, or it might use renewable energy. The renewable, I'm just saying no. I'm saying no answers to all this aside from just scaling down, because I learned not too long ago. I think like wind turbines, those are built to last about 20 years, and like solar panels are built to last about 20 25 years. Now I guess that's not that long really. Now maybe the waste from this, it still comes out way ahead. I mean, I'm sure it does compared to something like coal, but that doesn't feel like a great long-term solution. So I don't know. Yeah, tidal wave energy. I don't know how. I think tidal wave energy might not be. My information on this is years old, but I think that one had some problems where tidal energy, like the salt water and the currents can corrode this stuff pretty quickly, relatively. So it's yeah. So it's like, even if I don't think the answer necessarily is just, oh, let's just all go to renewable energy and we'll be all right. It's like, well, that'll probably help in some situations, and even then, transportation. Like, okay, this is such an enormous problem that I'm pessimistic on us solving it. But if I were to just start with, like, okay, what's the number one thing I can do to just start with the problem? I would try to just get trains all over the place, because they're way more energy efficient overall than just having tons of cars on the road. Because not only for the fuel being burned, but also the manufacturing of that many cars. And, I mean, you're always going to have some people who just, like, their car is everything to them. I'm not trying to go for, like, fringe elements or anything. But if you just want to travel or do a commute or something, trains, they can work out for a lot of people. And that would lead to a lot of fuel reduction. And that even though we're still using it, that might lead to a bigger drop than eliminating all cryptocurrency would. So the way I would approach it is go for the lowest hanging fruit first. Go for, where are we expending the most amounts of energy, or what was it? Carbon, I forgot the term, greenhouse gas emissions, and start with that. And then, okay, what's number 2? What's number 3? It sounds like Bitcoin is like down to 2, or cryptocurrency is like in the 200th on the list or something like that. So it's, I don't have good answers aside from scaling down is probably the only thing that's gonna, like, really work, but we're not really doing that. So interesting times. All right, I should move on to more questions, but I hope that's a more satisfactory answer. Yeah, we're just in a fog of badness. I'm not defending it, but there's bigger fish to fry on that for that exact mentality, Okay, let's see. Somebody's asking about Magda doing Alex's mind. I think she's not really. I think that's not really what she wants to work on at the moment. Yeah. Okay. If you want to know where, some of you will like this. If you want to know where Magda's mind is at, maybe, I don't know if she wants me saying this or not. She's been enthralled lately. Again, something happened that she's become obsessed with Final Fantasy VII, even though she's never played it. Though I'm really hoping they bring the remake over to PC, because she's really going to want to play that. She's become fascinated lately with this AI bot that talks like Sephiroth, that's supposed to embody Sephiroth's character. So that's what she's really interested in at the moment. So she might be happy if some other people help. If you're a big Final Fantasy fan, maybe you can help train that. She's been finding that fascinating. So let's see. Oh yeah. How would you feel about hosting a game dungeon related game jam competition where the winner gets a brief addition to the next game dungeon following? And someone's right. They kind of list. I don't particularly like game jams for two reasons. One's extremely petty though. I guess okay. The super petty reason, and this doesn't matter. This uh, is that when I think of a jam, like a jam session, it's like a bunch of musicians getting together and seeing they could kind of like come up with a beat or a song. It's kind of a casual thing, it's just kind of fun, like just or maybe they'll kind of practice some bits that they know or riff. It's just kind of like them experimenting with it. Game programming is not a casual thing. That requires lots and lots of work. Lone wolf operations are kind of, game jam is more like a hackathon. Yeah, it's like, it's gotta be like that's an intense amount of work to be putting through it. So I just never really liked that kind of reference to it. So yeah, it's just a casual jam. Like we're just coding casually. No, you're just working around the clock to meet some arbitrary deadline for it. It doesn't sound fun to me. I mean, I think obviously some people enjoy it, but I think even they would agree it's just not a casual thing. You have to be just going in hard to make the deadlines. But the bigger reason I don't like it is that I feel like we have an awful lot of games that I feel like if we're gonna have new games that, okay, I understand people wanting to experiment with concepts that maybe those don't get fleshed out. But then do we really need a time limit on that? I'd rather have people making games who they have this game concept, they really like the idea of it and they're going with it and they're gonna try and make a great game, or a pretty good one and one they really care about. So maybe that does take a while. Well, then it takes a while to come out with a good game, There are other games we can play in the meantime. And so it's like we're putting a bunch of time pressure on game developers, and you're not going to come up with an amazing game in 2 days. You might come up with a concept that later builds to a great game, but it's like we're putting all this pressure for kind of crappy results. Again, if somebody's just messing around with game concepts, fine. Then they don't need the time pressure. And then but if they're trying to make a serious game, then they're not going to be doing it in 2 days. So it's like when I was, I had a stream session where I bought that giant game pack where I think it had like a couple thousand games in it from last year. It's on a Curse Farms junk where I just went through and rapid fire went through all the games in there to see which ones I might be interested in playing and which ones just kind of felt like either junk or just I'm not interested in it. And I think the ratio was higher than I thought. I think it was between 1 to 3% I was interested in. But when I was looking through that, anytime I saw that this was the result of a game jam, or was it Ludum Dare or something, that was an automatic turnoff for me because I'm thinking, uh-oh, this isn't going to be good. And I'm not sure any of them that were made the list. So it's just kind of wasting gamers' time, I think. I mean, I guess some people appreciate, I guess what I'd rather see than a game jam is, let's say, have something like a short form game festival or something okay, it's announced you have 3 months or something to work on a prototype, or maybe have ones where the theme is these have to be 2D ones, or you maybe you don't want ones where people are going to be putting so much time into graphics, but you just kind of want to see concepts more. Figure out some way to put a cap on it to focus on gameplay or something, but they still have plenty of time to work with it, not just 2 days or weekend or whatever. So I'm not against having more kind of lo-fi concepts, but I'd like to see more honest shots at it. So yeah, somebody was mentioning there was a new super bundle. I browsed through it and I wasn't seeing anything I was interested in. So if somebody comes, I need to look it up. Let's see a list of like the higher profile games that are in there. And if I'm interested in some of those, maybe I'll give it another shot. But otherwise, it's like, I did that once. It's yeah, yeah. They aren't really tuned for the general populace. Yeah, they aren't. They aren't. I mean, I'm fine if they want to mess with these things, but it's just, as someone who appreciates games and has a lot of games I want to get through, these have very little value for me. I understand if it's part of like the creative process for some people, but I think even then, those people, they need more than 2 days or something. Well, I'm misunderstanding what most game jams are. The way for indie devs to learn how to create a game from start to finish in a short amount of time in order to learn a game experience. Why do they need a short amount of time? Why can't it be like 2 weeks or something if you just want to get like basics or something? I mean, I guess that prepares you for the industry to have to suffer ungodly crunch, but I mean, we have a lot of games, so it's, I don't know, it just does, I'm the wrong person to be involved in a game jam. I think that's what it comes down to. Like, I understand this has some value for some people, but for me, it's just like, no, I'd rather see a festival or something where people have a little more time to flesh out their ideas, or just have them go all in and make their own game, Yeah, I guess there's something. Well, I guess, yeah, time pressure does force some things, but I mean, wouldn't it be better to have like a week or two rather than like 2 days or something? I don't know. Less time does means less scope creep. Okay, that's understandable, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like a week or two would be better. The scope creep isn't gonna get. You're not gonna finish the game and have the scope creep get out of control in like 1 to 2 days. 2 days seems just brutal. I mean, considering everything that is involved with making a game, so it's brutal and for not great results, in my opinion. Okay, yeah, I've been going 2 hours. I should start wrapping it up. Okay. I have seen some of the new Castlevania TV show on Netflix. I'm not big on anime, but I have to admit that was very well done. It's more like I'm a big Castlevania fan, so it's like I'm watching it in spite of it being anime. Yeah, it has fantastic. It's extremely well put together. Yeah, actually, I think what I'm most impressed about. Okay, I haven't played the PlayStation 2 Castlevanias, but they're kind of weaving. I'm impressed how coherent a story they're weaving together for a game that didn't really have a whole lot coherent going for it as far as story. I mean, the old ones, the story was Dracula has descended upon the land. Your bloodline one of the Belmonts needs to stop him. All right, there you go. I think even it's based on Castlevania 3, like for that story time. And I don't think Castlevania 3 had a whole lot of story to it. I mean, so I'm impressed how they're able to weave something out of that, It's and how put together it is. So that seems relatively canon also. Yeah. Okay, I'm skipping some questions now. Sorry, I'm just gonna. Oh yeah, okay. Here's or maybe one of them. Mention how the video game industry has been chasing graphical fidelity instead of graphical quality for a while. Well, no, I think. Well, I'm not sure. I think fidelity is the. Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure what the proper term is. Like, one of them is you have extremely realistic looking graphics. The other is it's a clear image on your screen. Nice, clean image. So, I thought fidelity was the clean image, but it probably just depends on how you define it. But yeah, it's like I'd rather sacrifice the polygons and get the clean image. Is what. How do you think RTX lighting applies to this? Do you think that's an interesting step forward in video game graphics, or would you rather the industry focus on making the effects it already has run and look smoother first? Well, it's hard to say because we're certainly not there right now, but I have heard the argument, if you could have your entire game be ray traced, then that can make it easier for the programmers because they don't have to pull out this bag of tricks to make raster lighting look as impressive. So there's something to be said for that, to make it easier for the developers and still have good results. We're ways off from that because I think like maybe, I'm not even sure Quake 2 and Minecraft are 100% ray traced. They might be though. But like every modern implementation of it, they're getting the worst of both worlds. The developers, they have to support the ray tracing and they have to do all these rasterizing tricks. So go ahead. So I mean, yeah, actually something I cut from the Echo episode that I was going to mention is the graphic, what they were doing with raster graphics was pretty damn impressive for that game not being ray traced. Because if you walk by those shiny metal spheres, like on the staircase, on the stair ends, like you can see a blob of N reflecting off of it. It's not as accurate and it's using a lot more tricks than ray tracing would be, but they were doing it. And you're seeing like mirror image reflections coming off the floor. I mean, they're doing tricks. They're probably using these maps to simulate it, and it's not like an actual, well, I'm not sure. That stuff can get pretty confusing when you look at the tricks for that sort of thing, but it was looking pretty good to me. So for me personally, I don't care if it's on that level or like flawless ray trace quality. That shimmering though drove me crazy though. So I want to see that reduced, but it's like I was mentioning earlier, you could do a game kind of like Echo on the Doom engine or like Quake. I'm fine if see now I'm using fidelity the other way. I don't know what the proper terms are. Oh, okay. That's interesting. Chat's saying the Unreal Engine 5 just depreciated ray traced reflections and are removing it because it just takes too much power. They found it wasn't worth it versus other methods they have. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, because I have a long way to go to get like the kind of things we're showing on screen now with real-time ray tracing at like 1080 or 4K graphics. I mean, that'll be interesting. That would be an interesting math problem. Maybe people have figured that out. How much power do we need to have that? Like, let's take like a demanding game where there's a lot on the screen, like Hitman, like the new Hitman games. They have like just like maybe hundreds of people or something like that in these environments. How much power based on like what we can do today with assisted would it take to have that all be ray traced? and figure it out for like 1080 and then figure it out for like 4K. And then figure out, based on what we can do now, we're talking like pure ray trace, not mixed mode, where we're having raster graphics, but then have like ray tracing for reflections or certain lighting effects. I bet that would be a pretty high number. So that'll be a fun puzzle if you want to try and figure that out. How many... I was going to say teraflops, but I realized that's probably not the performance metric we use for ray tracing. So I'm not even sure what metric we're supposed to use for ray tracing. I guess what I think is more interesting and kind of exciting for game development, like we mentioned, for game development, something I think is better in Unreal 5 is it sounds, I forget the name of it, but it sounds basically like you can have the engine handles all the infinite level of all the level of detail now. So you can put in something with like millions of polygons, and it's fine. The engine will just take care of it and scale it smartly. It's kind of like what Messiah was promising to a degree. Didn't quite deliver on. So whereas for game development, normally you have to create different models at different distances, and then always be checking your polygon budget, and then scale them in smoothly, that sort of thing. Whereas if the engine just handles all of it, that's a huge load off game development. So that means they can kind of waste. That means they can spend their time on less of the annoying crap, that you have to have in order to have a smooth performing game, which is great. It frees up their time for kind of things we'd rather, for basically anything else that we'd rather see them spending their time on in the game. Or, there's something. Well, again, I like the animation tools that we'll see how good they are, but stuff that makes the tedious stuff easier. That's not really about creative vision or gameplay or anything like that. It's just about these are technical aspects you need to deal with if you want to have like a polished game. So, what was another one they were doing? It might not have been. Oh yeah, okay, not with Unreal necessarily, but I'm super. Okay, they're talking about like the RTX cards. I'm not that excited about ray tracing. I would be if this was the 90s. I mean, ray tracing looked amazing in the 90s, but now raster graphics look incredible with the tricks that they're doing, or at least by my standards. I mean, I don't care if the game looks lifelike. I just want nice art direction. And I was blown away by the Palace in Echo. If they could just get anti-aliasing solved down, because that's a really objective image quality concern, then I'm set. I'm fine with pretty much all graphics then. I mean, maybe not all art direction. I'm still not going to like them just tinting the screen of one color for everything, but yeah, somebody's saying, I think the new Wolfenstein, the Youngblood one, has some ray tracing elements in it. I think it does. But the differences are so subtle now to me. I mean, they're there. And I guess if you're obsessed with creating lifelike, in other words, completely you can't tell it's not real footage, then yeah, I guess you want ray tracing is going to help a lot over raster. Wow, this is bouncing the camera. Over raster graphics, but it's just not that interesting to me. I'm fine with graphics from 10 years ago. I mean, as long as I can have my nice anti-aliasing, or things I notice more. Okay, yeah, here's the difference. Like I mentioned, those stair ends, those tiny, they're just reflective chrome balls that I could see like a blobby reflection of N go by if I got close to them in the game. If I was doing that ray traced, it would be completely accurate. You would see the fidelity on her. It would probably stretch the right way. That's such a subtle thing to me. However, things like a tree popping into the field of view because it was distant and now it's closer, or that shimmering that you saw, that's a much bigger deal for graphics for me than something, because that just like, that's so jarring where this is so subtle with like the lighting improvements to me. So I guess I'd rather see stuff like that solved first, but I think I mentioned this before. I am way more interested, and I think that's much more exciting potential in like what AI can do with games. Like with the RTX cards, I know they also have those tensor cores that are like designed for AI usage. I think there's loads of potential things. I think we haven't even scratched the surface of what we could do with that. I'm sure there are plenty of potential of things I haven't even imagined yet that could open up potentials for what we could. Because there's the obvious stuff like maybe making smarter enemies with behavior, or smarter NPC behavior, but there's all sorts of things like I wouldn't have even occurred to me, I think, that you can make into gameplay elements. And I think we're just starting on the potential with that. So I think that shows way more potential for games. I'm trying to think of some more examples of thing. Well, actually, it wasn't implemented so well, but in Sin episodes, they had a kind of a crude AI. Yeah, where if you start doing a bunch of headshots, then the NPCs would adapt and start wearing helmets. Or if you're really kicking ass, then a bunch of more soldiers would come in. And if you're struggling, then you might get more health, that sort of thing. So the AI could be adapting more to your place. Yeah, like it could veer off that that you could have, you know, let's say it's a shooter and you prefer sniping a lot more. Well, then the game's going to detect that, and you're going to start having a lot more scenarios where you end up. It could even change the landscape, so your levels might be completely different. So if you like sniping, you're going to get a lot more long range sniping stuff. Whereas if you like more close indoor tactical stuff, you're going to get more of that. Or so yeah, somebody's saying like the Left 4 Dead director AI, but way more. Like I think we've scratching the surface. And yeah, somebody's saying the DLSS is great. DLSS sounds like it has a lot of potential, but it's game specific. You can't just I can't use DLSS on Echo, So it's nice, but I like universal solutions a lot more, So, but yeah, I think AI I think I'm going to be a lot more impressed by what's going to happen with AI than I am with ray tracing. So, it's nice. I'm not against it, but I think what ray tracing comes down to, if I'm going to take the cynical take, I think what it comes down to is companies wanting to sell more video, NVIDIA finding a way to sell more video cards. I think that's but we'll see. Maybe we get the kind of processing power we need to have everything real-time ray trace in the future. I feel like I may or may not see that day. So, am I ever going to review any of the Resident Evil games? Maybe. Can you comment how you feel about the puzzles in them too? Yeah, I remember them being kind of cryptic, but it wasn't nearly as bad as like adventure game puzzles. Or some of them would be really easy. I don't know. Okay, well, someone's asking, should a game like Dreamworld be preserved? I hadn't heard of Dreamworld. And somebody has my exact answer underneath it as a reply, where they think, I don't think that all games need to be preserved, but I think they should all be preservable as much as possible. So, and I'm quoting the person here, if even one person wants to preserve Dreamworld, I think they should be able to. Exactly. So it's just, the majority of people may not see value in a game. Fine. If somebody does and they want to keep it, then they should be able to. It's when they can't and no one can preserve the game. That's what drives me nuts. Because, oh, this guy's throwing shade on Phantasmagoria too, and then they probably know that's one of my favorite games, even though I'm not defending the gameplay so much, but the whole game experience. Yeah, I guess there's gonna be, as usual, there's gonna be another conversations with Curtis. We're kind of getting our ultimate behind the scenes thing going on here. So I think this guy's just trying to get a rise out of me. Yeah, yeah, all-time favorite, not good gameplay. Yeah, exactly. Some games are like that. Thematically, the game's awesome. His acting's awesome in that. Music's pretty great. I love the theme. It was doing Dimension X before Half-Life, So, and just the pacing of the whole story. The pacing is just awesome in Phantasmagoria 2, I think. It builds slowly, so. What do you think about the idea that many problems and characteristics of our society are the result of individual psychological problems? Or at least the idea that a lot of our society does can be traced back to our individual psychologies. Maybe there's an example that people know about, but I would think not really. I think I think when it comes down to like when you look at our societal problems, like I mean, you have things like, let's say, like war or famine or poverty, or I think these are things that if you just got a bunch of people together and they ask like, hey, should we solve these things? Yes. Okay. How should we solve them? And okay, well, here we have some ideas. Well, fine, let's do it. I think we would do that, and that's so. Even if people have individual problems or psychological problems, I think you generally get the best results from just kind of common sense on many things. I mean, not everything, but I think a lot of our problems are what people in positions of power want, can often be diametrically opposed to what the majority of the population want or humanity wants. And so you can have problems extending from that. Because, well, I'm thinking of like, okay, well, okay, my audience is going to be biased, but like, should we solve things like lead in the water, like water pipes? Should we replace those pipes? Yes. Should we make that a priority, even over, let's see, what are some things like parking spaces and potholes? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I bet most people would agree if you had like a community and there was lead in the pipes, that it could cause brain damage or types of cancer or something. We should make that a priority, even over potholes. Just take the pothole money, deal with that, and then work at the smaller stuff later, or say the salary of some of our elected officials, maybe it comes at that expense and we figure out how to compensate them later, what? So, what are the things? Well, okay. I was thinking of like DuPont, where they release C8, which is like, I think it's considered it's a toxic compound. It causes health issues, but it's been so widely polluted that I think that it's estimated that there's trace amounts in basically every living thing on Earth now. So fortunately, we can survive in smaller quantities of it, but that level of pollution is not okay. And it was covered up for years and years, and it might have been decades that they were polluting this. And I think if you just asked everyone in that valley, hey, should we shut this company down and have the people who knowingly did this go to prison or have a trial for them on this for, I would argue, thousands of cases of attempted murder? I think they'd say yes, and we'd be, so whatever individual, that wasn't collectively people having individual problems. It's more like the power dynamic, the people who are in positions of power having individual psychological problems. Yeah, that can cause all kinds of damage. I mean, there's no shortage of that sort of thing in history. Which was the, what was it? Was it Henry VIII, or I forget which one? Which was the king that like, who wanted a son, even though that's a sex-linked gene on the mother's side. So he kept having daughters, so he kept executing his wives, thinking he had to get the right wife to. Okay, it was Henry VIII. Yeah. So there's no shortage of individual psychological problems causing massive problems for society on the hierarchical level. If the person at the top has crazy ideas and he has the power to make that happen, watch out. But I think collectively society can make pretty great decisions on the most basic things. I mean, there's always the issue where sometimes society doesn't have the information it needs to make the best decision. Like I'm not sure I'd trust society to like come up with a great like space station design or something like that, where we need serious engineering knowledge to know what to do. But they might do a decent job of promoting the right people to it, or not though, depending. See, the thing is, bad actors can intercept that goodwill. Well, so maybe some guy, in the space station example, we want to build a space station. Society decides like what we should do about it, and they nominate somebody who is not particularly knowledgeable, but he's like a smooth talker and is trying to get money out of it and that sort of thing. So yeah, that can easily go astray, but that's not really. I think most of humanity is quite malleable, actually, but people kind of go with the flow and they'll have their own ideas on things. But for the more fundamental a thing it is, like again, food, water, then they're collectively going to make decent decisions. But when you hand that power off to individuals, then anything can happen. So, there's something else I was going to say, but I lost it. We'll see somebody saying they'd stop crying to the government. Well, there's some problems that are bigger than the individual. Look, no individual is going to solve global warming or make a space station for that matter, or get all the lead out of the water supply in just even a city. You need collective efforts for that. But, there's some, but I mean, I'm trying to think of issues where, but you're right. Maybe the government, maybe if you make a mini golf course, then government only needs like light involvement there. Or it's like, all right, are you dispensing toxic chemicals? No. Or is this going to catch on fire within a week? No. Okay. Are you whipping your workers? No. Okay. Well, then you're probably okay. Something like that. Then yeah, you could have a lighter touch on. But it's this stuff gets endlessly complicated. But maybe people can think of an example. I probably missed the chat for examples where the individual psychology is behind societal problems. I don't think it is really. Oh yeah, that was the other point I was going to make. That's the other thing. Usually people can make good collective decisions on fundamental things. However, it depends on the group too, because like I said, I think humanity is very malleable in terms of psychology. If you've been kind of programmed with ideas that aren't really grounded in reality, then that group may not. I'm thinking of the example like the cult tycoon. I would not want to say then they won't even they may not even be receptive to stuff that the majority of people would find sane. Like I was thinking of like a cult, like I would not want to say to the cult that the mothership is not coming. It's like, well, we checked the telescopes, we don't see any sign of the mothership coming. If that cult thinks the mothership is coming, you're not going to get through to them. So it's now if it's something where like say in science, like we think, I'm trying to think of an example, like you're trying to determine like how likely is there an earthquake going to be in this region? And somebody comes with their seismic observations and pointing to patterns. And another person is saying, well, if you look at this rocky, if you look at these layers, then this is likely to absorb the impact of the seismic activity and not extend past that. Then that's the sort of thing where they might have their own ideas, but they're talking about it rationally. Whereas saying to the cult that the mothership's not coming, the rational arguments don't matter. So it's not the same thing, where you can have disagreements because you have different information, but you're willing to hear the other side and kind of reason it out and figure out, okay, well, did I have it wrong or did I have parts of it wrong, or does this guy he had bad data, or maybe he's just not looking at this clearly? See, then that's like a rational discovery of information, whereas the cult, they are not interested in rational discovery of information about the mothership. Like, another example I was thinking of, like in like medicine in the Dark Ages, I imagine people would not be receptive to, it would be considered heresy what we do now, this isn't caused by like the four tumors? No, not tumors. Humors. It's like, well, we're supposed to bleed them. What are you talking about? That they need these, they need these pills in order to not, in order for their heart to feel better again. Or something. Like, it would just be insane because their entire society, they would have, knowledge was more limited, and what was considered common knowledge was not. And the kind of only way you get out of that is through science, really. So, yeah, blood, bile, urine, and what's the other one? I think it might have been mucus, actually. So, yeah, it's okay. It's another conversation going on, but yeah, I mean, rational discussions and science tend to lead to a lot of help things, but part of don't what don't take the other person's word for it that this is rational logic. Follow down the logic, go step by step, because there's no shortage of people who think they're being rational and scientific when that's not what they're doing. In fact, I was thinking if I could, if there was like one class I would like make, like we have classes like math and science and biology and English literature and stuff in school. If there's one class I think I would try to make mandatory, it would be just like logic and critical thinking. Just, I think it could be incredibly helpful for civilization. Maybe. Just to show how you arrive at, like, to determine. I feel like that could kind of might be able to inoculate society to some extent against disinformation. So, okay, I should get some more questions. I don't know an awful lot about Sweden. Okay. Well, they're asking what I thought of Sweden. Let's see. Well, this is another question. They're asking what I thought about Carl Jung, and particularly the Red Book. I don't remember a lot of Jung. I do have a minor in psychology, and there's something I did want to say about that. You know how there's like hard sciences, like, stuff like physics and math is the hardest, and then you kind of go out from there because stuff like biology and like engineering, and whereas psychology is considered one of the softer sciences. There's a reason for that. When I had classes on it, I feel like how much this felt like science varied wildly. Some classes, like, I'd say the part that felt the most like science to me was behavioral psychology, where you can set up experiments, repeatable across different groups and see how people behave and just kind of record the results. So if you present this kind of stimuli or present people with this kind of dilemma or do this framing for them, then you're likely to see these kinds of results. And these are measurable observations, they're repeatable, and you can try and test for different variables. Like, that stuff really felt like science. And then there's other stuff where I almost want to say it's like this person had a dream, and this is what this dream means, and this is truth. Like, it really didn't, it felt so flimsy to me, some of these classes, that it's like, okay, I guess this is just in here out of, I mean, maybe they're onto something, but it just shouldn't feel like science. It's more like, we have observed some things, so we're gonna make up explanations on these. And my career depends on making this sound official and complex, and like it's really standard and stuff like that. So yeah, for those like phrenology 2.0, yeah, the Freudian stuff. Well, it was even more modern stuff though. I mean, Freud's worth learning about from a historical perspective to understand like the history of psychology, how we got here. And maybe there's some concepts in there that have some connection to real world observable stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that feels like this just feels made up. Like, and that hasn't really stopped, Or would you consider the most horrific pseudoscience? I haven't kept up with it, but I mean, I'm sure you could come up with some candidates so I could pick one out. Like picks them out from a lineup. But yeah, behavioral psychology felt like science. We're really testing for things. We're seeing how people behave, and we're forming hypotheses based off of that. But then we're looking at all sorts of variables, like maybe in one country or among a certain demographic or class of people are more likely to behave this way. But then you go to another country, you're going to get very different results because the culture is different, or or maybe there are differences between like men and women or that sort of thing. So they were really trying to exercise scientific rigor. So Jung may not have been as much like that from what I remember. It might have been not as bad as Freud, but it might have been just more, let's take a guess and we'll just go with this guess for now, Let's see. Okay, so more questions. I haven't played Space Station 13 yet. I'm afraid it's not high up on my list. I'm sorry. I'm just going to skip some more. Oh, for Vorpex. Yeah, I've done a little bit more of that. I'm going to try and play Kingpin sometime in VR because I got that work. Vorpex, though. Man, Vorpex, I mean VR, it's I feel like a moth in the flame, I can make it about 20 minutes and then gradually the motion sickness starts creeping in. So I've heard it's possible to extend that, and I tried doing that. It doesn't seem to change much. So I'll see. It's because it's one of the most amazing experiences, but it's going to make me, it comes at a high cost for me because as people who get motion sick know, it's one of the literally the worst feelings you can have. So, yeah, I guess I wish there'd be some competition to Vorpex because I would get kind of worried if this were to go down. I'm not sure Vorpex. They have an end of life plan, so if it were to go down, it might be impossible to use, which is a horrific thought to me because that extends to so many games. But oh boy, but yeah, I kind of want to go through history in VR because I'm pretty sure I can run Kingpin plenty of. That's a Quake 2 engine game, but plenty of processing speed for that. So I'm trying to get Unreal to work with it. I haven't had luck with it so far. I'll have to try again with it some more. I tried various profiles, none of them worked. I tried a patch that's supposed to work that didn't work. So, or different rendering APIs, still doesn't work, but I'm going to keep trying it. Apparently it's been possible to get it working. And then after Unreal, I of course want to see some locations in Deus Ex and VR for sure. So I'm kind of going through, I'm still in the late 90s right now for my VR, most of my VR experiences with Vorpex. Okay, well, somebody's saying thanks, no need to respond to this. I'll try to get more videos out, Oh yeah, this is a good question. If money was tight, would you consider selling advertising space or offering product placement slots in the movie? How about letting people pay for cameos like Kickstarter video games they do in statues, background portraits for NPC faces? The movie it's been kind of thought of before I would ever consider this sort of stuff. So no, I mean, how do I know somebody who donated $2 a few years ago wasn't more of a supporter than somebody doing it now, I guess for this sort of concept in general, for advertising space, I'm really hesitant about that. It's more, it's like I don't want to cheapen the video. So if it's done in such a way that I feel like it'd be, and this one's going to be in a medieval fantasy environment, so you're not going to have ads and that sort of thing. If it was in a contemporary setting and it was a billboard in the background, I could maybe be okay with that. Somewhere it's not going to detract. I felt like the product placement particularly tied well into it. So, but it's really easy to just kind of, I think, cheapen the effect. of it. So, plus, yeah, and for I understand where that works for like Kickstarter and NPC faces and stuff like that. But the thing is, I've been doing this too long, so it's like I don't want to exclude people like on a new project that sent money when I really needed it in the past. So I kind of I don't know I'm not good with this stuff. So okay. Oh yeah, somebody's asking about NFTs for people to better own their digital content. Okay, NFTs are something where I haven't bothered to research entirely how it is, but every explanation sounds like this sounds very flimsy. Like, I don't even understand. It's like trying to apply. Okay, yeah, here's my issue with NFTs. I feel like it's trying to bring over the concept of real world scarcity into digital to make artificial scarcity or something. It's like, why do that? I mean, it's like, so I guess maybe there's some fringe cases where this makes a lot of sense. But like if you had like an important government document or authentication of like let's say you had like a will or a digital version of like ownership of a house or something, like a deed to a house, then yeah, maybe it can make sense for something like that. But it's like if you wanted to get away entirely from analog real world stuff. But it's like, let's say it's a wallpaper or something, and like I can get a copy, like they'll sell a copy of the wallpaper, but it's not the original one they make. Well, it's functionally identical. We've lost the concept. It's like it's like they're not getting the concept of digital. I mean, and I me, I have enough problems with game destruction as it is for them to get anywhere near this sort of thing to make it easier to destroy games if it ties into that. But I don't know, NFTs. It's just I'm not cryptocurrency. I see the potential there in a lot of ways, though I can see where it could blow up also. But NFTs, I'm not even really seeing the potential there. I mean, there's a hustle. I'm sure it could work, but there's lots of things like that. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm skipping more questions. Let's see. Somebody really wants me to do Blood Omen Game Dungeon. Maybe Blood Omen's a taller order, because I can't do just that game and not go through Legacy of Kain, So it's like you're asking for 5 game dungeons, really. So that's kind of, let me get more out, Let's see. Oh yeah, okay, so this one's talking about Unreal 5 again. Okay, so yeah, that's the Nanite LOD system. Okay, they're saying ray tracing is power hungry, but that won't matter in 5 to 10 years. Okay, well, I already kind of covered this sort of thing. I'm not sure we're going to have full real-time ray tracing, again, of like 5 to 10 years for most games. Yeah, I mean, who knows what's happening right now, because I'm not sure historically there's ever been a situation like this where there's a huge market for all kinds of games, but we have such a big shortage in hardware. And that's a great time to be in the old games. Okay, well, unfortunately, this doesn't keep up with that trend, so I'm not trying to rub it in. But this next question, have you watched, read, played something past months you'd recommend? Yeah, I recently beat, I got this one for free from GOG with my deal. I played through Serious Sam 4. It's fun. Is I feel like all the Serious Sam games have their ups and downs, and neither one is like perfect. And this one is not an exception, but the highs are really high. I'll say that. It's when it's good, it's really good. Even though they did several things, I've thought, why are you doing this? You know, like they added drama to the game's storyline. It's like, why? Is this the right series for that? You know, I really the game. Some of the levels are really great. The weapons almost get overwhelming. I want to say there's like 20 weapons, and then they have alternate fire modes on some of them. So it's like I sometimes have to like remember what weapon should I switch to next to not run out of ammo. I think I almost would be fine if they merged some of these weapons and then just gave me more ammo for them, but you know, to compensate for the variety. But yeah, Sam Fortune. But yeah, I'd really like it if they make another sequel. I think they've played out the prequels by now between 3 and 4. Also, I think I'm in the minority, but I really kind of liked Serious Sam 2. I feel like maybe they could have turned down the goofiness a little bit, just like, you know, 20% or something. And if they did that with like the design sensibilities of 4, I think that could be the best one, maybe. But a sequel to Second Encounter, like in between Second Encounter with 2, that would be pretty good too. That'll be perfectly acceptable. You know, but I think we're done with the prequels. You know, we want to kind of keep moving forward now. But yeah. So yeah, if you like previous Serious Sam games, 4 will deliver, I think. Yeah, that one actually was tricky to get running smoothly. What I did, but it gives you just a million options you can tweak. So I was able to kind of lower the fidelity in the areas I didn't care about as much to kind of get it playable. And what I found, and Serious Sam it's kind of what you'd wish from almost all games. And that when there was frame rate drop, I did not care because I was so concerned with what was happening on screen that I was just like, oh God, like that. I wasn't, the frame rate drop wasn't really at the forefront of my mind. It's like when there was a frame rate drop in that game, I had bigger things to worry about. So, which is kind of how I want it. So. For books, I'm still going through one that's I think someone recommended to me. I think it had an MMO off of it actually. It's called, was it The City of Golden Shadow? It's a long one. I'm still going. I would compare it to sort of like it reminds me of most of the book Reamd by Neil Stevenson, but also has some stuff that feels like a little bit of Ready Player One. And a little bit of Alice in Wonderland in there. It's kind of going all over the place. So, but it's interesting. It's sort of a VR mystery thriller thing with also this weird fantasy angle coming in every now and then. So, as for shows, well, I've started watching one I was curious about. It's called The Last Ship, and the plot is an epidemic has wiped out most of humanity, except this Navy ship was out of contact on a mission for months, so they've kind of missed most of this, and now they have a doctor with them that's trying to come up with a vaccine for it, and it ended up being less sci-fi and more kind of like military thriller, I'd say. I'd say it's about 2/3 pretty good and about 1/3 Navy recruitment commercial. There's no way this was made without like some funding from the Defense Department. I refuse to believe that. Like they're definitely. I mean, they're not saying to. They're in that line in between. They're not so blatant outright with like trying to say how great the Navy is, but they're definitely dropping hints throughout it. But it's Yeah, would you like to know more? Exactly. It hasn't touched that, but it's a perfectly enjoyable show, and I've been liking it so far. So somebody they halfway their pizza than me. I and now they're talking. I don't know what they're saying. Okay. Uh, yeah, it's making me hungry because I'm thinking about pizza. Okay, I've been going a long time. I'm gonna try just skim through if there's any other questions I really want to answer. Let's see. Well, this one's kind of a sensitive topic question. I think we need to get more votes for it. Answer that one. I don't want to answer that one under time pressure and then say the wrong thing. Say not. You know when you have like a complex thought and then you say one sentence and then that suggests something else that you didn't mean and then that's what everybody latches onto. So I kind of want to avoid that for. So the more sensitive issue material needs more votes. You know. Somebody asked a question for the fans that got no replies there. That's okay. Well, it's not a question I'm particularly interested in. It's about Freeman's mind. Like you guys have seen enough of my videos that if I want to know what the fans think, I'll ask. You know, in the videos. So yeah, I think out of this one, I'm most curious what games do the environments of Echo remind you of? And it's probably not a long list, you know. I am interested in the new Resident Evil games, like 7, 8, and the 2 and 3 remakes. I am interested in Death Stranding, though. That's another one that typically, like the more modern the game, the more hesitant I am if I'm going to be able to run it or not. Especially because I don't think I'm going to be upgrading my video card anytime soon. Oh, okay, this is one worth mentioning. Did you see the NVIDIA Omniverse Machinima beta mentioned in their ComputeX keynote? I hadn't seen that, but I saw their announcement of that last year, and they said like beta release starting October, and they had an email address. I put my email at. I mean, they had a place where you could put your email address, and you could be notified. And I never heard anything from them. It's the sort of thing where I think I talked about this before. I think their tools might be helpful in a supplemental way. I don't think they're giving me everything I'm going to need, but they might have pretty decent like body capture. And I would say like lip syncing, but it looks like the eye expressions weren't looking so great to me. So maybe if it was like a more mundane, it might be good for lip sync if I could combine that with facial capture expressions. So if I could kind of merge the animations and it looks all right, then that might work. I don't really care about the ray tracing aspect of it. And the one thing that can make this a little bit dead in the water for me is knowing NVIDIA, they could tie this so that it only works with RTX cards, which is understandable for the ray tracing. But if that's the case, well, then I can't do it. I don't have an RTX card. So, and I think a lot of people aren't going to have an RTX card for a while, like another year or two at least. So. Somebody's asking if I consider One Piece or maybe Piece a good anime. I have no idea. I'm the wrong person to ask about anime. Let's see. I'm not aware of a Freeman's Mind resurgence on Tumblr and Twitter. Sorry. I figured best thing I do is just keep making more videos. I'm not interested that much in. This is a decent question. Do you have an interest in programming yourself? Do you like to tinker with the surface features of PC, like the GUI? No, it's the reason I'm not that interested in programming because I mean I've done a little bit in the past. It's for me personally, it's pretty dry and very time intensive for kind of what you get from it. But it's mostly about time. It's like I'm doing so many different things that I almost want to cut myself off so I don't take on more things to just end up in this just whirlpool I never get out of. Where because like with making the movie, I'm gonna have to figure out the animation systems, doing the writing, doing the voice recording. I do audio editing. I'm probably still gonna have to do a whole bunch of video editing. I'm gonna have to coordinate all this stuff for the movie, especially. So to be doing programming on top of all that, no, I can't. There's not enough of me. It's like an Echo. I would need more copies of myself. If I have 4 more copies of myself, one of me be like, all right, I'll learn the programming, see what we can do, guys. So I think a better use of my time is if I have programming needs, is to kind of reach out to people. So because I'm lucky enough to have enough of a fan base that if I need help with that, get somebody who that's their thing is programming, and they love all the manipulations they can do to from coding that they can do with that. I mean, I appreciate it. It's just that I've already done the same thing with civil protection for modeling. That was another bridge too far for me for trying to, because I was doing mapping. I was again doing all the animation work on that, but everything else, like getting this stuff working, doing for the early episodes, doing some texture manipulation. Yeah, 2D graphics to some extent. I'm trying to delegate more of that stuff, but the more delegating it's kind of, if you have a good person for it, it's definitely a time saver. If you're having to send out feelers for it and find the right people and coordinate things, then maybe it's a time saver, maybe it's not. So it just depends on what it is. So I have to, we're saying it needs a personal assistant. I kind of do, to be honest, but that's tricky to pull off. Like if I could do it without security concerns, I would have like a secretary going through my email. Like that would help too. That would be another job for one of the. I was thinking if I had clothes myself, I'd have one of me just go all in on the movie. Another person just keep doing Freeman's Mind. Maybe another one of me just do more Game Dungeon. Another of me just do all these other side projects I'm trying to get on top of, or maybe the emails, because I figure I could trust myself pretty much. So we would split up the work, Okay, so I'll take a few live chat questions. Just to do the @Rots broadcast because I still haven't set up IRC, or else I forgot to this time. Oh, and I'll say, if you've emailed me about a game recommendation, I have not replied. It's being added to the list for recommendations. So don't, because that's another thing of where I'm just doing triage and just figure, well, these emails might, some people like really want to get more information from me about something, or that they'd really want to appreciate. But if you're just recommending a game, I figure maybe you're okay if I don't reply to every single last person. I still reply to some, but okay. Whoa, okay, so I'll scroll down a second. Would a dedicated donation of $1,500 be enough, or not quite enough if we consider playing some of the Black Mesa game? For example, on Twitch. Oh man, I hate it. It's like, this stuff is like a slippery slope for me. Because if I'm desperate, absolutely I would do that. But otherwise, I'd rather have that time go to the movie or another Game Dungeon. But I hate tying that to just like a monetary thing. It's more like I want to see like fan outcry like in the tens of thousands for me to do that. So that I know, okay, people want this over a Game Dungeon coming sooner. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean put it like this. If I only do things by monetary incentive, the movie will never get made. And I don't want that. I'm going to lose money on the movie probably. So I just don't. I don't know. and plus maybe that person can't afford 1,500, but they feel like they have to spend it because they're obsessed about this, and I wouldn't want to do that. So, do you have an offline version of the list you keep on hand with all the games on it, or do you just want to look on the one on your website? No, it's pretty much the same thing. I mean, I just have like a a notepad of the ones that haven't been added to the list yet, but that's about it. It's still pretty much just what's on the list. I do have my own sort of private game archive index, which I could maybe share sometime if people wanted, where I used Launchbox for it. I don't even use it to launch the games. It's organized like the list. And what this is, these are all the games I have that I've gone through, and then I can keep track of like what's on Steam, what's on GOG, what's on Epic, or like what's are just disc copies, that sort of thing. So I do consult. So some of those games, what's great about those is I can hide the ones I've already played through, or just give a hide tag. So yeah, in fact, some of the games that I own just through coincidence, I've started giving a label, PWP, probably won't play, and then I just hide those. And so I can just hit a button, and then just the ones that I have and I'm interested in are on there. So it's like I could hit a random one. So it's every time I look at it, it gets me kind of excited about gaming. So the games list on the website is sort of like the future version of, and then what I have on my own computer is like the present of what I have right now that I could play at any given time. So they're quite similar, but yeah, I used Launchbox for that. Do you think ghost hunters are delusional? No, but well, I think there's not really evidence for it, but I haven't watched the million Ghost Hunter specials, so but they sort of have an easy out, and that this is the spirit realm, which is maybe beyond what exists for observational science. So, but I guess if that's the case, then you're not really getting much in the way of traces. I figured if there was like really good ghost evidence, you probably would have. It'd probably be more common knowledge, is what I would guess. But I mean, they can have fun doing it. It's. I guess it depends. Like, I don't know if you, whenever you're talking about things that are beyond objective reality, observable reality, it's like you're involved in what you want to a certain degree. I mean, I enjoy some fantasy games or science fiction things that doesn't make a lot of the concepts real. So it's like if somebody's more into ghost hunting, like, well, maybe there's something out there and they have fun with that, then sure, why not? But it doesn't do much for me personally. Have you ever felt cosmically connected with the universe? No, not really. Okay, next question. Which do you get for personal... my knowledge of dinosaurs is not extensive enough to give very good answers of this. I think they'd be mostly dangerous and probably be better. Jurassic Park kind of had the right idea, just needed better security, As far as dinosaur use, just kind of create a zoo or wildlife refuge environment. I don't know if dinosaurs are going to have a lot of use aside from that. Maybe they taste good if we can clone them, so that could be something. But probably not, though, because I mean we don't have a lot of like reptiles commonly. I mean, you'll have some places where you can get snake or alligator or something, but they're not extremely common. So that makes me think they're not like a choice meat, What methods do you use for downsampling? Okay, it depends. Well, it's like on that chart. For DirectX 10 and above, pretty much the only game in town is like on NVIDIA, it's dynamic super resolution, and on AMD, it's virtual super resolution. And that's pretty much it. It's just downsampling. Now for DirectX 9 and earlier, get the program NVIDIA. This is for NVIDIA cards. For AMD, I'm not sure there's much more you can do besides forcing it through the control panel, and it may or may not work. But NVIDIA, you have a lot more options. Get the program NVIDIA Inspector, and you can force some super sampling options through that. However, it may not work for some games, but if it's old enough, like again, DirectX 9 earlier, look up the game and look up like NVIDIA AA flag. And I have no idea how these people have discovered these values, but you can enter in these hexadecimal numbers for one point in NVIDIA Inspector for anti-aliasing compatibility, and that can get super sampling working on a lot of games. I found the value 10C1, it works on a lot of them, but not all. Sometimes it depends on the game engine. Like some stuff will work on a real engine, other stuff will work on just like, let's say Frostbite or something like that. So it varies. Some you can't get working, but a lot you can for DirectX 9. And this right here is probably the number one thing that's kept me on NVIDIA cards, because that's a real tangible difference between them and AMD ones. If it wasn't for that, I might have gone with AMD by now. Any friend cameo ideas for the movie? No, but I might have some voice actors I'm friends with in the movie. So I kind of don't want too many like side things to detract from like the core movie, and just have the movie be a good, fun experience, you know? I have not heard of Harari. Is really intellectual. Work on societal problems might interest you. Really big picture thinking. Okay, I can maybe look them up. What? Okay, geez. See, this is why I gotta get IRC working again. I think I did get it working. I just forgot to launch it this time. Okay, and now I lost my spot. Here, let's do a search for his name. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Any advice on dating, given that can't say that word because then YouTube might change it. The pandemic. I don't know. I guess you'll have better luck with long distance relationships as a starter, you know, for dating. That's how I met Magda. It was long distance relationship first. So, I mean, first we exchanged emails, and then we did Skype chat, and then eventually then came to Poland. So, UFOs are apparently confirmed now. Your thoughts? Well, I mean, a lot of things can be unidentified. I haven't really been following that. I guess the old, was it Carl Sagan, the old saying, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. So I think that still holds true. So a lot of things, UFO does not mean an alien ship. It means an unidentified flying object. And I'm sure there's plenty of unidentified ones. So I guess the question is, yeah, you gotta bring a lot of evidence, you know? What's your favorite comic series? I really don't read that many comic books. It's more like cartoon books, or it was like, comic strip books is what I'd read. For those, I guess The Far Side was really good. Trying to think of one of my other favorites. Yeah, I don't know. If I was going by my favorite, it might be The Far Side. But yeah, I never really read like superhero comic books. Like even as a kid, I didn't get into them as much. I read a lot of like funny comic strip ones though. Like as a kid, I read, just all kinds of things like Peanuts, BC, Calvin and Hobbes, Garfield up to a point. I think as I got older, I think and I don't think Garfield would have much for me nowadays. Though I will recommend, look up online Garfield minus Garfield. That one's brilliant, where somebody just took Garfield strips eliminated Garfield from it, so it's just John talking about things, and it's incredible surreal humor. So, Russ, I've seen you wear glasses on stream. Do you need to wear them or are just reading glasses? I wear them for most things. Yeah, well, they're right here. I'm nearsighted in one eye. I have astigmatism in the other. So, I mean, I can kind of make things out. I mean, like when I would jog, I wouldn't wear them because it bouncing up and down didn't feel nice. So, I mean, I can navigate for them, but things are blurry for me. Although it's a weak prescription because I didn't even get glasses until middle school because I remember sitting down, like looking at the forest. I was thinking, or like the trees outside. I was thinking, but that really is a little blurry, So, I mean, I wear them. I guess I leave them off for the video chats just to be a little more photogenic. But if I'm actually gaming, I want to like have everything in focus. Okay, everything's in focus up to, I guess, about here. So everything's 100% in focus up to that point. So a little bit after that, it starts getting a little blurrier. Though it's not the normal kind of camera blur you're used to, where it's just blobs. It's a little different. It's not very nice, actually. But I can make out things in the distance, and more if I squint, that sort of thing. Okay. Do you see yourself coming back to the U.S. sometime in the future? What's it say? Probably not in the near future. There's both the expense and my wife would be terrified of flying. So, I mean, maybe once I'm done with the movie, I can do a tour or talk her into that. Plus, my taxes get even more complicated if I set foot back in the United States for one day. Then it's like I have to deal with extra forms. Okay, I'm a self-employed expat for my taxes, like, living outside the United States. Like, I typically have to file like at least like 7 or 8 pages like of taxes, just through how tax system works, being like outside the country and self-employed and claiming a totalization for Social Security, so I'm not double taxed on that. So yeah, the first year I couldn't figure it out, but yeah, I didn't mean to get off on taxes. Get off topic on taxes. Oh, okay. Well, somebody was saying they're watching Warren Spector talk about the making of Deus Ex, and he brought up almost the exact points he made in Game Dungeon. The talk came out after the Game Dungeon came out. Did you watch the talk? No, I hadn't. Well, okay. I guess I got it then. That's kind of why I made the episodes, because I felt like I hadn't seen. Everybody knows Deus Ex is a great game, but they were just looking at like the flexibility of the gameplay or something, or like kind of multiple routes. And it's just like, no, this game just got so many things down like that. Well, that's great. Although if I was going to knock Warren Spector down a peg, which I would not normally because it's one of my favorite games, but I heard him say this, I'm going to call him out. He was basically ridiculing I think this person who asked about wanting to like open up some of the source so they can so they could add VR support to Deus Ex. And he was saying that like that person was like a masochist or something, and like they needed a better hobby. I was just like, what are you talking about? Like, you think people don't want to go to these locations as though they're actually there? Sure, the gameplay, it's yeah, from a gameplay perspective, I can see where VR wouldn't add much to the game, but the experience of it, like, no, I have to go against him completely on that. I think he just doesn't get it. Like, I mean, it's real simple. Think of your favorite game, like favorite 3D game, and would you like to play that game or walk around in that game as though you were actually there? That's what it comes down to. So, yeah, I mean, I would probably play Deus Ex with like cheats or real easy mode in VR, but I for sure would want to see some locations from that. So, well, I think I will with VorpX. I mean, have you considered more polls for fans and viewers to get better fan input? No, but that's okay. I don't take this the wrong way, but that's like a lower priority for me than just getting better videos out for you guys. I feel like that's the best thing I can do when I'm like trying to prioritize what to spend time on. So, can you ignore this message? Okay, maybe that's a sign I should end this soon and go eat. So let me just browse some of the others quick. Did you watch Seth's review of Deus Ex? No, I haven't. Did that come out after mine? Let's see. Deus Ex, I never know how to say his. Okay, November. When did mine come out? Deus Ex Game Dungeon. now I don't even know. Oh yeah, mine did come out earlier. Okay, so well, if he had made his sooner, maybe I wouldn't have needed to make mine. I might have skipped Deus Ex if I thought somebody just nailed it. And at the time, I thought they didn't really get all of it. It felt like everything was like from a gameplay perspective, you know. Oh yeah, straw polls. I should get on that more. Okay, I'll end this saying that maybe this is a defect with my brain. But sometimes little things like this, like just coordinating, like, okay, I need to set up a poll. Okay, let me go find the information to set up like this easy poll to connect. Okay, let me copy the link, post it here. Stuff like that just is like mentally taxing for me. Whereas thinking of like, okay, let's come up with a new script for Game Dungeon and figure out which shots I'm gonna get, whereas that's like easier for me. You know, even when I finish, okay, believe it or not, this is like the dumbest thing. When I finish a Game Dungeon episode, I almost dread having to go put in the information for it, put the title, put the thumbnail, make a post on Twitter, make a post on the website, you know, like get the description. It's like I dread all that little stuff. It's just how my brain's wired. Whereas I'm like almost enthused to make a new Game Dungeon sometimes, you know, to like make a fresh one. So it's like the little nitpicky stuff is like what is like more taxing on me. So yeah, that wasn't really a joke about maybe needing a personal assistant. So, okay, I think I'll end it on that. And so yeah, talking to people is fun, but like posting this, the actual act of just posting this on YouTube, getting the description, getting the links, everything, that's the part I don't like. So, okay, so I'm gonna go, thanks for showing up, and I'm gonna go eat. And this went on too long again. Oh well.